across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, this was the James Whale Show up until recently, when that great broadcasting legend left us after a phenomenal fight with cancer and after raising an absolute fortune for kidney cancer and indeed for receiving the MBE for his services to both broadcasting and charity. As the funeral was on Monday, we're going to review the funeral. So this is the final ever James Whale Show with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Charlie Mullins. And we're going to go through some of the clips from the funeral. We think it's appropriate. I've been James's understudy for the past couple of years. Obviously, Asher has worked with him for 30 years. And Charlie is, I think, his best friend in the broadcasting world.
Hopefully, yeah, about 20 years.
This is Charlie Mullins, by the way, if you didn't know. It's not Rod Stewart.
Sorry, I said this is the James Whale Show with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Charlie Mullins.
Yeah, but they're like goldfish, our audience. They'll have forgotten 10 seconds later.
Tonight, as you know, Andrew, is a tribute to James, all about James. So,
yeah, man.
So before we start, when did you first meet James? Because we've got clips from the funeral, but this is our opportunity to ask you about your friendship with him.
Yeah, I met James through an agent about 20 years ago, and went on his, I think it's a phone-in programme, like about traffic or something on, I can't remember the channel, LB something.
Oh.
Yeah, and that was it. And then, you know, we continued to work over the years. He'd done adverts for us, he'd done Christmas, opening a Christmas sort of lights situation.
And what was it about him? I've always thought that you are the no-nonsense entrepreneur and he was the no-nonsense radio broadcaster, and that was just a natural affinity.
A symbiosis.
That was it. I mean, just the you know, he's direct, said what he thought, admitted sometimes when he was wrong, and
I don't remember
and didn't put up with fools, and you know, I think that's a wonderful sort of you know, thing to have about you, and I'd like to think I'm the same. So.
Asher, because it's the final show, I know we've said this before, but what about your first meeting with James? How did it all come about?
Well, it happened at Talk Radio UK when we were in Oxford Street back in '95, and I did a couple of other shows before, but not very long when I was there, and the guy said, do you want to do the James Whale Show, you know, and we'll get you a car home. I go, all right then. And, you know, I'd watched him when I was 18, you know, on that weekend show, which was amazing, wasn't it? Especially when it was in
20 years ago then.
Yeah, well, and the rest. Yeah, and
that show was crazy, wasn't it? And it was
one
so
of the
popular.
first ones, and also, you know, there was nothing else. So it got like, I think it got about 10 million viewers, didn't it? Because there was nothing else on at that time of night, and everyone.
I think 10 million was an exaggeration, but it was
more than a million, though.
I'll tell you why.
James always told me it was 10 million.
I'll tell you why it felt like 10 million, because everybody would go into school the next day or go into university in your case.
No, it was Saturday.
And talk about
the next day was Saturday.
All right, go in on a Monday and talk about what had happened.
Yeah. Well, no, it was amazing, but I'm sure it was more than a million, because everyone I know, our age and older,
you didn't watch a James Whale Show. You more witnessed it.
Yeah, that's right. I think it was so different. He was prepared to speak up. He was outspoken. He told people to F off when
it was like an orgy of TV entertainment.
It was just a new, like,
and it had Bernard Manning on and lots of eclectic mad guests and a lot of strippers, mainly male strippers.
Well, he loved male strippers. No, let's not put that room. Let's nip that one in the bud. Right, but I want to say to you also, there were some people who asked, quote-unquote, asked online, where everybody seemed to be posting pictures from what appeared to be a party. Just to explain, at his local parish church, where he'd previously had the funeral for his first wife, just to remind you that him and Nadine came together because she lost her husband to cancer and he lost his wife to cancer. So where his first wife had her funeral, there was a very, very formal funeral presided over by his brother, who's a lay preacher. And we're going to give you some clips from that. Afterwards, there was a party at his favourite pub. So when you saw photos of people having fun, there were two different events.
Yeah, but let me just add this to it. You know, James's words were he didn't want a woke funeral.
Yep.
He wanted everybody to really enjoy themselves and really give him a great send-off.
He would have loved it, wouldn't he? That party, he would have loved it.
Undoubtedly, but that was his request. So you know, the fact that people took photos and was enjoying themselves afterwards, you know, was celebrating
what he wanted.
Great sort of presenter's life.
Yeah.
And the service was just incredible by his brother. brother.
We've got a little clip, actually, a few clips from the funeral, and the first bit was he had all his a lot of his entertainment mates doing things and singing,
Exactly.
and he had Matt Goss first of all, and this is Matt Goss in the church at the funeral.
While my lonely heart has learned its lesson, I'd be yours if only you would call in the wee small hours of the morning. That's the time I miss you most of all. You're unforgettable. That's what you are. Unforgettable, though near or far, like a song of love that clings to me. Just the thought of you does things to me. Never before has someone been more unforgettable in every way. And forevermore, that's how you'll stay. That's why, darling, it's incredible that someone so unforgettable, oh James, you are unforgettable too.
I thought that was just extraordinary. And just to explain for those of you listening on the radio, Matt Goss from Bros had his arm round James's wife Nadine during that singing. I mean, I just walked up to him afterwards, and I know this sounds like a weird thing to say, Charlie, but I walked up to Matt Goss and I said, do you know, you're such a famous guy, but I didn't know you could do something that moving. And he said, what, sing in front of a live audience? And I said, well, with respect, that's not what I meant. But that was crazy good, wasn't it?
I mean, Matt's a gentleman. He's been a long friend of James's and Nadine for a long time, and he was very, very sympathetic to Nadine. It was just an amazing thing to do.
And Luke as well was his great mate, obviously his twin brother.
Yeah.
He couldn't be there because obviously he lives
I think there was a couple of other people sung, Lee John.
Yeah, Lee John.
And
Shirley.
Yeah, Shirley. There was all great
Straker, of course, nearly smashed all the windows when he hit that high note.
Peter Straker, it's fair to say,
he did the Lord's Prayer, didn't he?
He was a powerful singer. I just want to say, for those of you watching, James Whale was incredibly proud to say that his grandson was in the military. For security reasons, we won't give the name of the grandson or the precise details, but that is one of the people.
His grandson was carrying the coffin,
yes,
and was very proud of it. As you know, his granddaughter got up and spoke, his sons got up and spoke, his family got up and spoke, and they was all so proud of him, and it was just a tremendous send-off, a tremendous funeral, and as you know, the amount of people that turned up and sort of given their sort of condolences to what went on, it was just amazing. And
I felt
this is what James wanted, and you know, I have to say, Nadine done marvellous to, you know, get through the day
We've got Nadine now. So I mean, look, obviously Charlie Mullins has effectively introduced it. This is Nadine Whale's tribute to her husband.
To the very end, and throughout his illness, James carried himself with quiet, dignified bravery, never making a fuss even in extreme circumstances. I'm so proud to have been his wife. And I know with absolute certainty how deeply he loved all of his family and friends that are gathered here today. James and I discussed the details of his funeral at length, which has made it very easy for me. All I had to do was carry out his wishes. The one thing he left for me to choose was his coffin. He told me he didn't want a traditional wooden one and to find him something funky, maybe in wicker. I found a lovely woven wool coffin that's made in Yorkshire. It seems both appropriate and very cosy. I just hope that he's not cross with me because it's environmentally friendly. He is to be buried in the suit he wore to receive his MBE and with the things he might need: an arrow, sunglasses and a pair of Talk headphones. Sorry, Lauren, I snaffled them out of the box. Nothing can truly prepare you for losing someone you love, but in his kindness, his thoughtfulness and his unshakable spirit throughout his long battle, James has prepared me as much as anyone possibly could to cope with life without him. Thank you, James, for loving me with such a pure and steady heart. Thank you for being my truest friend. Thank you for proving that even through difficult times, life can still surprise you with joy, with laughter and with love. There will never be a day when I do not miss him, but I hold on to the certainty that one day, somewhere, we will be together again.
That was, that was Nadine, and she's watching, so hello to Nadine.
Hi, Nadine.
Hope you're doing okay, yeah.
You've done marvellous on the day, and it was a tremendous... James, we know exactly what James wanted, you know, the type of funeral, and that was the funeral.
I mean, it was better than what he could have imagined,
I genuinely think, Charlie, that people like you and Asher and Nadine genuinely benefited from that funeral, because when you all arrived, you were really sort of ashen-faced and a little bit broken, and by the end of it, I just think it got a lot of the emotion out.
You're probably right. I mean, if I'm being honest, well, I felt quite miserable for most of the day. Yeah. And, you know, then as things got sort of changed a bit and the atmosphere changed and we come away from the church and then we were celebrating, you know, his good life. And, you know, we got back to his best friend, who was Joey, who had fought it, and he had laid on the most amazing food, drinks, entertainment. And you know, Joey and his family that have had that pub for over 50 years, and is a best friend of James. You know, James actually moved there because that pub was in the village.
Is that right?
Joey told me that, and they became great friends. And you know, what he put on that day for James is just incredible. And I so also, well done to you, the fought it.
Yeah, man.
Joe.
Yeah,
well done,
absolutely.
Joe.
I think we owe them a debt of gratitude. Also, of course, when the cameras were off, Bobby Davro sang, and who knew that? I mean, I'll tell you one thing about Bobby Davro. He did a stand-up comedy routine at James's MBE party and was just brilliant. And then he sang at the funeral, admittedly at the wake, and was just brilliant. That man is so talented. He was very upset, but he's so talented.
Well, Bobby, again, as you know, is a lifelong friend of James, and I've been to many times where they've been together, and you know, Bobby's been performing for the James or different things. And Bobby's just an incredible man, a very kind man, and again, another broken-hearted person on the day. But what a performance Bobby done when he sung.
They were good singers, though. The old comedians, they all could sing. Ken Dodd, Bernard Manning. I mean, Ken Dodd had more top 10 singles in the 60s than the Beatles.
Well, you know yourself, I mean, Bobby Davro's a very, very funny man, very talented. Probably the most funniest man not on TV.
And the beauty is, you only need to see his act once. No, I'm joking.
I think what James would have been proud of was the fact that his granddaughter, who he desperately wanted to speak at the funeral, did summon the willpower to do it, summon the strength to do it, is a better way of putting it. So this is Ella, James's granddaughter.
As many of you know, he had an extraordinary career and worked nearly his whole life, even writing his final column while in the hospice in his last days. In the 5 years he lived with terminal cancer, I never once heard him complain. He was always so conscious not to be a burden to others, and he always tried to not let the cancer become a burden to himself either, even though I'm sure it did, but he tried not to show it. I will always look up to my granddad for his strength and his courage, and I will always miss his encouragement. Whenever I sent him anything I'd done at work, he'd always say how amazing it was and tell me he knew I was going to do great things. Grandad, I want you to know that in everything I do, I'll do it with your bravery, determination in mind, and with the knowledge that you would be proud of me no matter what. The very last thing he said to me in full James Whale style was, "Don't be miserable." And I promised him I wouldn't be. So even though today is incredibly hard, he wanted this to be a celebration of his life. And I know my family and I, along with the people in this room, will do everything we can to continue his legacy and his joy for his work and life in general. My granddad had an amazing life, and I truly believe he knew that. I think that's why he stayed so positive, even at the very end. I wish I could have had more time with him, but having him as my granddad for the past 20 years has been the most special part of my life. 20 years I will cherish and carry with me always. I love you, G-Dad. I also just wanted to say thank you to Nadine, because you truly made his last 5 years so special. Not just for him, but for us as well. And I know my nana couldn't have asked for him to meet anyone better after she passed.
That was Ella, and that's Peter, his youngest son in the back behind, and Adele, his wife.
Yeah.
Ella's brilliant. I mean, she told me after, she said to James that she'll write something, but she probably won't be able to say it, and she was upset that she never told him that obviously on the day she felt up to it, and she held it together well, and she's actually brilliant. I think she's going to follow in his footsteps.
She's 22 years of age, and to be as she was there, and it's just amazing. And so we've got to congratulate everybody that really done everything they can to make it a wonderful funeral. And probably like most people, never been to a funeral like it, and it was just absolutely amazing.
And, as Nadine said, it wasn't environmentally friendly, so he would have liked that coffin.
It was environmentally friendly.
It was. No, it was. He wouldn't have liked that. But the thing is, it was the most tasteful thing, because she picked it, of course. It was Yorkshire lamb's wool.
Yeah, look, everything went as well as it could do, and Lizzie Cundy was another great friend and the presenter on the TV. Obviously, people was upset and crying, but at the same token, they were just saying James would have absolutely loved this. So I think everybody done him proud. And
Lee John got the words to Amazing Grace. He got his own version from a different hymn book, but that was quite funny. James would like it. And then he had whistling archers. He had his mates from the archery.
I heard they almost shot a truck.
No, it went right over, but one did go past, which is why people laughed. But they were like going, "This is like a thing."
Was it? So I because I was a colleague of James rather than somebody who'd known him for years and years. When they said there was only limited space at the graveyard, I took that as a literal thing, and I didn't go to the burial. But did Theo Pathetis do the arrows?
No, they held their bow. I don't know if Theo did, but they all held their bows. Theo
definitely brought his bow.
Oh, well, they did an arch.
Maybe they did. A few people fired the arrow, because, as you know...
James
only one fired the arrow, but there was they all formed an arch of long bows.
No, more than one people had that bow.
Well, I was behind it. It was
no,
Gary.
I'm telling you, there was more than one bow there. I think 2 or 3 people
Controversial,
done
this
it.
is.
No, but anyhow, look, it's irrespect.
It doesn't matter.
You know the couple, though, hadn't you, by then?
I'll tell you what the great thing was. The archers did that.
That's what he wanted.
What most people don't know,
love that.
Asher told me this, that had he not been a radio presenter and TV presenter, he would have been an archery instructor. Yeah. That was his kind of favourite thing to do.
I never told you that.
You did tell me.
I've never heard that in my life. First time I've ever heard that.
What makes me laugh is the last ever James Whale show with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Charlie Mullins. We're all disagreeing.
He would have been a hairdresser.
Shut up, Ash.
I think you need someone like James to be able to say
get out. Get out of the studio.
But we have to. It was an amazing, and I think, what talkTV have done to show people, the people that couldn't go there or knew of James, and
thanks to Denny and Lauren, of course, and Scott.
Of course, everybody at talkTV, they pulled out all the stops to be able to show people the tremendous send-off and the respect.
We're uploading it tomorrow onto the channel where they filmed it, and it's going to be on the talkTV.
I think it's also worth thanking Chuck Thomas and his team, and I'll tell you why.
Of course.
Because there was a significant number of people who sort of had to, and I don't want to be crass, carry and assist and install him when he was doing his shows. And I just think it was so good that he had the dignity of sitting in the chair rather than when he was on his bad days, people seeing that sort of weakness. And I think there was a big team here that made that possible.
Yeah, look, there were so many people to thank for it, and as much as we're going to deeply miss James, I mean, he's a one-of, and there'll never be another James Whale.
Well, I will say one thing. Do you remember when he signed for his MBE? And they said, if there's any mistakes in the name, tell us now. And he went, my name's not James. And I went, what's your name then? He went, Michael. And I went, what, Michael James? And he went, no, just Michael. And do you know what? Because he was terminally ill, I went, oh, sod it, just don't tell him. Right? So we never ever told the palace that his name wasn't James.
Well, you know yourself, one of the greatest moments in James's life was receiving the MBE and the celebrations afterwards, and you know, highly.
Well, thanks to you for all that.
Well, I'll tell you the other thing. I'll tell you the other thing that we will say. Very kindly, I had an MBE minted in secret just in case he didn't make it to the palace. You very kindly, as an officer of the Order of the British Empire, agreed to put it on him if he never made it as far as the castle. Thankfully he did, and that was his best day of his life. Yeah, well, his best day, getting and meeting Nadine and getting married and having his children. There's many times I've had, you know, probably more personal discussions with him, and one of the things I always remember is he used to always say he wished he'd met Nadine many years earlier, and I think that's such a lovely thing to say.
So tell me, when did you hear about him wanting to be an archery instructor?
Right. Do you know what? It's turning into the James Whale show properly now, isn't it? Shut up, Ash. Charlie, get out of the studio. Back in a minute.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, it's the Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. And just to say that Nadine Whale has been in touch and said that Gary shot the arrow.
Oh, Gary's a great friend.
But there were multiple people with bows who did a guard of honour at the church.
Chris, Theo, James Cosmo did a lovely reading, didn't he? And
just, can I just remind people of who James Cosmo is? He's the ginger fella from the film Braveheart. He was Mel Gibson's.
Yeah, another great friend of James's, and been to many events with him there, and a lovely guy. And you know, you show the respect he had. As you know, Nigel Farage was there. Yep. There was just
Eamon Holmes,
Jeremy Cole.
Theo Paphitis was one of the archers, and they did they held their bows, 6 of them. I think there was 6 or 8, and then it was Gary. It was Gary and Hilary who really looked after James, the local live nearby, and they kept coming every day and helping Nadine out with everything. They were unbelievable.
They were the people that got the special thanks, weren't they, Gary and Hilary?
And deservedly so.
They're great friends of his also, and Nadine. So you know, I think that. Everybody tried to do the best they could do, but some people I think was very special and stood out. But you know, as I say, Nigel was there, and another great friend of James, and James would always speak well of him. And you know, it was just an amazing funeral, amazing, absolutely.
Yeah, it was funny watching how he brought people together, because you had sort of Matt Goss having a beer with Nigel Farage and Charlie Mullins.
Of course, Lord Henry Cobold from Nebworth, and of course Lord Addington as well. A couple of lords who are his good mates.
Dan one. If I'm being honest, there was that many people there that I didn't actually go home and say.
Biggins, of course.
Oh, Biggins was there, yeah.
And Biggins has been unwell recently, but he turned up.
Of course, Josh Rom
from the
But also, you got to remember, there was a lot of just normal people there that was just normal friends of his.
Yes.
It was an opportunity to get a lot of good people together and celebrate James's
Well, what I did,
life.
because I wasn't in the official party, I arrived early with all the friends from the village who were sat at the back.
Of course, Lizzie Cundy. We forgot Lizzie Cundy.
Loads of people.
No, I mentioned Lizzie.
Oh, did you? Caroline Monk.
Thank you. There was, but besides, celebrity so-called people, there was lots of normal people that James liked and knew, and
Oh yeah, I was,
and their family and friends.
Strangely, normal. He knew normal people as well.
I was talking to. I mean, there were a number of people, and just to remind you, who the biggest job they've had in their life was to be James Whale's producer. Now, obviously, he had multiple producers over the years, but these people turned up and were incredibly emotional. And there was one lady who was talking to me. I forget her name, and she was the
Stephanie
one who,
Hurst.
when the sniffer dogs arrived. She was the producer.
I don't remember that bit either.
Well, sniffer dogs at the funeral.
No, there was
sniffer dogs at the funeral.
There was sniffer dogs in the studio once, because there was some sort of bomb scare or something, and she also picked up the phone to the guy who was suicidally depressed, and James was very unsympathetic, and then became sympathetic, and all this sort of thing.
You know what? Another thing I picked up at a funeral. How many people James had helped in this type of business as presenters and journalists and different people in this business, and many people I suppose say, James guided me here, guided me.
He always helped people out,
in that case, I've got to remind you, Jason Cundy, the former footballer and TalkSport presenter, turned up specially because when he was diagnosed with cancer, James took him to one side. I forgot that.
Yeah, I mean, he helped a lot.
Of course, Kev and Mike Graham were all there, and
of course, everyone. But he helped a lot of people in this business. He helped a lot of people that got through cancer or were still suffering for it. So, I mean, it's all full credit to the man. Right till the end, they done the Tales of the Whales right up until I think.
Well, she's still doing bits and pieces on it. It's really nice actually. Because there's things after that you have to deal with, and she's sort of doing that every week. So that's really nice. Keep that up, Lady W.
It was a shame that that James Jr. felt unable to read out his statement. His eulogy.
Yeah, but Keith read it out, and it was It was actually really lovely.
So we should say Keith Whale is the lay preacher who presided over the funeral, who's his brother.
Yeah,
and also his son was there. I never thought of James having his son, and his brother Keith's got all his hair, but his son, Keith's son is like James's hair. It's interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean,
I never even realised that.
But it was just a great day to bring everybody together. Lots of good people, and everybody I think we just gave them the
Charlie, I want to say to you, because you flew in specially from Spain for the funeral. I don't know if you know, but this show from now on, every single week forever, at 11 o'clock, we'll play a classic James Whale clip. We've got hundreds of them in the offing, so I think that will be a good ongoing tribute.
Of course.
And also, without being funny, it's cheaper than a statue.
Yeah, we've got one tonight at 11. Any hints about what it's going to be? Oh, you got to stay tuned at 11, so there'll be the moment from Whale, and
But you know yourself, you could have this place packed out with people that want to, give a nice contribution to James and what he's done for him in his life, and the amount of people was there was just incredible. I mean, and the fact that it started off a very, very sad day. And I don't think could have been done any better. That's exactly what James wanted, a good send-off.
I'll tell you one thing that I will say. I came into this business completely differently to James. James came in because he wanted to be an actor. I came in because I was a university debater. And I will say, one of the things that people talked about was the fact that because he had dyslexia as a child, he was really not supported by his school at all. Had he been supported and had he gone into university debating, he'd have won a major competition. And I often wonder, I don't know why James asked me to be his understudy and why because we didn't know each other that well, and I've often wondered whether he regretted not doing things like that, not working in the House of Commons, not doing university debating and things like that I got the opportunity to do.
I was going to say, if there was ever someone that's got the real makings of an MP, it was James Well. Because imagine him like representing you or representing the party.
If he was still not here now, he'd be running at the next election.
He nearly ran for mayor for Reform, or no, UKIP as it was with Nigel Farage, and it was getting a bit serious. And then in the end, he thought, well, no, this is getting too serious.
Farage wanted him in. I'll tell you what Farage would have done, even if he was unable to run for the House of Commons because he was ill, he'd have put him in the House of Lords, wouldn't he? Because if Farage wins the next election, he's going to put a load of people in.
If he wins, when he wins.
He'd have loved wearing all that stuff, wouldn't he, on the opening day of the House of Lords?
Yeah, but James just would have been ideal as an MP.
I agree with that.
Or involved more with politics. He was just so outspoken and didn't put up with
I'll tell you where he would have been good, Charlie, where you would have been good as well. OK, nowadays, a lot of MPs, all they do is social work for the constituents, but the actual job is to go into Parliament and debate the issues of the day and debate the legislation.
He'd have been a great speaker, though, wouldn't he? Imagine him as the speaker.
Oh, can you imagine that? Shut up, Prime Minister, shut up.
Order! And, you know, he'd be good at that, wouldn't he? That is sort of what he did here.
Exactly. But I think, yeah, look, but we have to look at the great things he has done, and undoubtedly he's probably a legend in the
and unique in his field.
Absolutely unique.
OK, well, I think we're going to have to say this. This is, I suppose, the end of the final James Whale show with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Charlie Mullins. But we will be back with The Late Show with us three talking about... Oh, did you have one more thing to say?
No. Is that... Sorry, I didn't...
No, it's not the end of your bit. What I thought I'd say is, that's us now. We've done with the tributes. Now it's time to continue the show. And Charlie's going to come back in a couple of moments and just tell us about the fact that he believes there's going to be a recession caused by Keir Starmer. More next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
We're on live.
And that just went
live.
live.
A message from Nadine. You said, wait till we... can you read it out? Is it all
Are you happy with me to read it?
Well, I don't know what it is.
Well, I'm going to read it anyhow.
Go for it.
So this is from Nadine, who's watching the show, obviously. And she says, well done, Charlie. Goodness, you make Ash and Andrea look so scruffy.
I know, it's very difficult. Very hurtful. Very hurtful.
Well, look.
No, don't read that out.
You said
Nadine, if I had that much cash, I'd look like that as well, right? Let's just be clear.
I had my tie on yesterday.
So
Nadine, but they look very, very smart at the funeral. I must be honest.
That's the main thing.
Obviously, they're a bit more
My
relaxed.
hair had gone a bit wild.
I wore full morning dress. I had
look,
look,
you guys look smart, but
so
anyhow, I've let them know the need.
Did you get your jacket back by in the end? Didn't you lose? Oh no, that
jacket?
was Joe,
No, that
was
was a waistcoat.
So Charlie, look, you've got a relatively new business which is We Fix London, and what you do is, well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you tell us what
Isn't
it does?
You Fix or We Fix?
Well, look, I've got having new We Fix.
Oh, you got your We Fix.
No, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, because he used to do that with his other ones.
Yeah, and I've got my Reform one also. But yeah, so that's the name
That's
of the
cost him
company.
a few quid. Just to explain, Charlie opened up and the lining of his jacket was We Fix logos. So what do We Fix do for a start?
Plumbing, roofing, tiling.
Carpentry, electric, stainless. We do everything that the previous company done.
I can do advert as well.
But we actually do it as perhaps a different level, is a nicer way of saying it. And you know, it's starting to go well, and I'm very pleased now that it's a family business, and you know, we're gonna make sure we outdo my rival company.
So you've always had this view, which is almost similar to the way that the Germans are. So the Germans, don't worry.
Germans?
When the Germans have tradesmen, they like to be really open and clear about what the prices are going to be.
Yeah.
And so they don't like this whole thing in Britain where somebody turns up and you expect it to be 200 quid and it's 800 quid. You like clear pricing, proper jobs done quickly.
You know, the best way to run a business is the right way, and that's being transparent and having the proper people answering the phones, not all this I1 or AI nonsense machines, and you know, proper tradesmen turning up smart and tidy, and people that want to work for you. So you know, we've established a company like that, and you know, I've got to thank everyone on We Fix the way it's going at the moment, and we're absolutely smashing it.
And how are you finding it? Because you know, a lot of businesses saying Britain's finished, the UK. I mean, you're up against it, aren't you? Running a business in this country.
Look, let's not kid anyone. You're up against it, but people will always pay for quality.
Yeah.
But of course you're up against it. I mean, you know, if we didn't have all the problems we've got with the taxes and the cost of driving through London.
You're a high net worth individual. A lot of high net worth individuals are fleeing the country by the day. I mean, what's your views on that? We're going to lose all our main contributors.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's happening. It's still happening. You know, I'm not on the payroll, and you know, I'm not prepared to put any more money into the kitty. But obviously, We Fix comply with the UK tax regs.
Business,
But of course, a lot of people are going, and they continue to go.
I've got a weird question for you, Charlie, but it's something that I had a problem with in Windsor. So tradesmen, when you try and bring them over to your house, the parking situation is such. Outside my house in Windsor, there was no system for tradesmen to park. What they had to do was park 10 minutes away and try and bring all the kit.
Yeah.
How easy is it for tradesmen in London? Because it must be even worse.
It's even more difficult that you can park 20 minutes away and you've got to go out you know, so it's a nightmare, which we can obviously thank the waste of time mayor for that. The actual getting around London's a nightmare, but like anything, you know, if you put everything into a business and you need it to work and you're going to make it work, and if I'm being honest, you know, the previous company that I had, they allegedly are not doing that well, and we're getting a lot of their disgruntled customers coming back to us now.
Because you've always led from the front, so people don't think of it as X company or Y company. They think of it as Charlie Mullins' company, don't they? So your new one's you and your old one's not you.
Well, the old one's finished job as far as I'm concerned, but the new company is family. You know, my son, my grandson, other members of the family. It's a family business. I've just had my little bit of input into it.
But don't you feel the government, basically the big corporates, maybe the WF, are trying to drive out the small and medium businessmen
of course they are, yeah.
and go into the corporates, and it will get worse and worse. I mean, you're reasonable size, you've got a lot of backing, but there's other people who really, they're just going to get so much red tape.
There's many businesses that are going out. Businesses have been going for many years, big stores and everything. So it's certainly not an easy ride out there. But the good news is, you know, the worst we've got to put up with this other lot is 4 years, and maybe even a lot less. That's why.
That's a long time, though, isn't it? I mean, is the economy going to collapse in that time? It's looking terrible.
Undoubtedly.
So what does that mean then?
Well, it means
we go to the IMF and they have to change.
Yeah,
everything?
look. I actually think that a lot of people don't agree with me, but I think there'll be an early election called. I think Starmer will be gone in January. obviously one's already gone, 2 to go. So, you know, it's moving the right direction. And, you know, let's not kid anyone, the way Reform are performing at the moment, I mean, you know, they're just all of a sudden, there's someone that you can believe in, someone that you know that's going to make some changes. I don't think this lot that are in at the moment will last 4 years.
So you think there needs to be a collapse in order for stuff to happen, really? Because they won't do anything otherwise.
We're going to hit rock bottom and then start building again.
But you've always been, Charlie, you've always been more than a political donor, right? And more than just a businessman. You've always had a political interest. I don't know how far back that goes. But are you somebody now who's considering jumping in? I mean, look, at the end of the day, you can't stand Sadiq Khan. Would you consider a run for Mayor of London?
You were going to do that, weren't you?
Well, I was going to do that, but I wouldn't last 5 minutes because I'd say what I think. And
well, I think nowadays that's a good thing, isn't it?
Well, you know, what these busybodies are. They want you gone, don't they? But when Nigel Farage gets in, and if he wants me to work with him, getting youngsters into apprentices and that type of thing,
that's important.
I'm more than ready. More than ready.
And also, this is an awkward question, but there is a serious discussion about improving the quality of members of the House of Lords, bringing more business people in, bringing more people in. I mean, look, obviously it's an awkward subject, but would you accept it if it was offered?
Of course I would, yeah. Provided it's Nigel Farage, of course, and Reform. I mean, you know, the rest I wouldn't give 2 bob for. But, you know, he's very switched on. I've had my suit made for Reform with all the bits inside. So it's just a matter of time now before things happen.
OK, right, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. Why don't we're going to have a proper discussion about the economy, but why don't we go to a break first, and then we'll come back with me, Asher and Charlie Mullins.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Charlie Mullins. We were just hoping Charlie would accidentally say something as we came back because he didn't see the red light on. But you didn't, so don't worry, nothing went out live.
He sort of did.
But on a serious note, so Charlie's the chairman of We Fix London, which is a company which does all sorts of plumbing and carpentry and all that sort of thing. But you've got serious reservations about the direction of the country. I'm summarising your social media, but you've said that if Keir Starmer's allowed to continue, there's a risk of a civil war in this country. Why do you think that?
Well, because of the unrest that's out there, you know. I mean, you know, I know we're not supposed to talk about all these illegals and so-called asylum seekers and migrants and all this lot on the freebies on the boat, but you know, we're allowing too many in. We're paying for it. it's fairly obvious that it's obvious what's going to happen. It's so obvious.
Can I ask you this question? Because I think this cuts to the heart of the worry that everyone's got. I don't know your background. I only met you in the past couple of years, but I get the sense that you're entirely self-made, that you weren't to the manor born.
Yeah.
You didn't have parents that were able to invest in you or whatever, or not to a large extent. I worry.
Well, to no extent. I come from like many people years ago, a poor family. Like many other people.
Yeah, so my dad lived on a council estate in Lancaster, and then, or Heysham rather, and then got an apprenticeship with British Rail, built himself up and became the boss of a major company.
Yeah, like
and I asked him, and I'll ask you the same question, is it possible to be a Stan Walker today? Can you be a Charlie Mullins? Because I worry that Charlie Mullins, aged 18 today, would not achieve what you've achieved. Or am I being unfair?
Oh, I mean, that's a difficult question. I
suppose my point is it harder in business with all the red tape, with all of the employment laws, with all the...
It's harder today, undoubtedly, it's harder. But would have I achieved what I achieved? The answer is yes, because I've got the determination, the ambition, the drive, the willpower, the want to succeed. So,
but if you make it 50% harder, then you reduce the number of people that are going to be like you, don't you? I just worry that we don't. I'm talking about as a country. A, we don't value you in the country. B, we don't value you on the tax base. C, we don't value what you've achieved as a country under Keir Starmer, and it really upsets me because I just feel like the people that have built this country are not valued by this country. And there's no new generation.
You are right, and maybe I'm blowing my own trumpet, but I wouldn't allow Starmer and Labour to stop me from being successful. And of course it's a lot harder today, but all the youngster needs to do is get a job. If it's an apprenticeship, he's on the first step to becoming a millionaire. I mean, it's clear cut like that. You know how expensive tradespeople are now. Imagine in 2 or 3 years, they'd be like gods.
So here's the other question that I find inherently irritating. So once again, I'll talk about my dad, which I think is a sensible thing to talk about. So he was initially an apprentice, then obviously when he became a supervisor and he was thinking of becoming a manager, he went to the Open University and did a degree, and then he ended up with a master's degree and all this sort of thing. But I worry that now working class kids are pushed into university when actually starting off with a practical trade through an apprenticeship and then perhaps building up to university longer term is a better way of playing it.
Well, of course it is, but yourself, they've been pushing university for years. I'll get a lot of stick on it because I sort of say I think a lot of the courses there are a waste of time.
Yeah.
If you've got to be at university, you've got to be it. But many of the jobs today, you don't need university.
They're not real courses. What they've got rid of. Look, grammar schools really help the working class kids.
Yeah.
That's what really helped. Not these, Mickey Mouse degrees that mean nothing.
That's right. Well, the universities are a business, and it's about putting bums on seats.
It is.
I mean, I had some pest once come to me, for a job. I think he wanted to be a plumber or something, and he said, I've got a university degree in sculpture. Really?
Yeah.
That's actually one of the good ones.
Well,
got some bloody ridiculous.
I remember I had a friend of mine who was a recruiter at the BBC, and I forget the statistic that he gave, but he said if we fired every single producer at the BBC, then in 1 year we'd have twice as many media studies graduates as there were jobs at the BBC for them to take. Yeah, so the numbers are just extraordinary.
I mean, surely someone's got half a brain that's sending people to universities. Like the fact that this AI is coming in, and most of these jobs they say in a few years won't even be available. So what is the point of going on the course?
And plumbing, the manual jobs will be the last thing that AI can replace because it's difficult for robots.
Of course, yeah.
It's the white collar jobs are easy to replace.
So what is the point of learning it, knowing that
Would you hire a robot that was a good plumber?
No.
Why not?
No, you're having a laugh, aren't you? We only deal with real people.
Well, hang on a second. Actually, he said already. Yeah. You said already that you believe that when somebody answers the phone, it should be a human who's properly trained.
Of course it should be. I mean, look, we're extra busy now because it's all about personal service. We don't have none of this machine nonsense. We're in the office 24 hours. We answer the phone. We're dealing with real people, and you'd be amazed the amount of customers that ring up and say, "I'm shocked to be able to speak to someone." It's like something.
Yeah, but imagine a carbon copy robot of Charlie Mullins turning up with the wrench, and it looks just like you, but it's a robot, and you go, "Yeah, I've come to put your toilet in." Perfect job.
But
I'm so. What they call it, AI
phobic.
I just can't stand it, and none of the office want all that
You've got to get with the programme,
But I will say one thing, right? So, I'm not trying to show off here, but I'm a member of the Royal Enclosure Ascots, right? Okay. But because it's a private members club, it's one of the only sporting things where they've got a dedicated number for members. Yeah. Can I tell you what happens? You phone up for your tickets, you phone up for your members' badges, you phone up for your guests, you phone a human. And you know what they do? They do like you. I bet happens at WeFix, where you go, hey, am I able to do this? And they'll go, I'll just put you on hold.
That's
and they're clearly sat next to the manager who signs it all off.
Who is a robot.
Whereas actually it doesn't go, if you want to book tickets, press 1. If you want to do this,
we
press
won't
2.
have none of that nonsense. I mean,
that's a nightmare.
You know, there's even their old company, they let a machine pick the plumber who's going to go to your job. That's the worst thing you can do. You've got to marry up the right plumber with the right job with the right customer, and that's probably one of the biggest mistakes they're making. And believe me, we will come. Well, we are at the top already, and we will continue to grow on the basis that we don't mess about with this AI nonsense. We deal with real people and we look after people.
Do you think now, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious what your answer is going to be to this, but do you think now there's going to be a backlash? Because remember, I joined Metro Bank because you always had the Indian call centres or the foreign call centres, and they always got the impression that with Metro Bank, when you went in, you talked to an actual human, and they had lots of branches. I know things later went a bit wrong, but do you think there's going to be a backlash against all of this automated this and automated that? Because I think humans like humans.
Well, of course it is. I mean, you know, we're humans and we like contact with people. Of course it's all going to go wrong. Of course it is.
I like the self-checkout. I prefer that to the actual person.
It's only any good if you're having a fever, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah. You get
the only problem with the self-checkout...
These are onions.
The only problem with the self-checkout is if you are buying vodka before midday, it is better, isn't it?
Yeah.
But on
you
the
don't have to look anyone in the eye.
Well, look, but the thing is, it's doing many people out of work.
It is, dude.
You know, and I just think it's so wrong. And I watch these assistants in these stores, you know, showing people how to work the machine, and I think, are you mad or something? You're losing it. You won't be here in 2 weeks.
Well, the thing that annoys me about the self-checkout, I think Dave Gorman said this, OK, with cash machines, we don't go to a cash teller if we need cash, but... One thing I will say, the cash machine is quicker than the cash teller. I am not quicker than the checkout lady.
I'm awful. I've got quite good.
No, I'm awful at it.
But anyway, look, Charlie, let's talk about what's going on, you know, with the government and what's going on culturally and in the society. I mean, we saw in America, Charlie Kirk, horrific murder, and you can feel the tension in this country, and it's got so toxic and polarised. What do you think's going on? You're always. Do you get any trouble out in the streets, and do you worry about what's going on because you got grandchildren?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't get any trouble because you know, I mean, I'm only saying what I think and what's common sense. I mean, what happened to this Charlie Kirk is a tragedy, and these things should never happen. But, you know, you've got so many nutters out there and oddballs and all that. I mean, you've had enough on the show in here that James has chucked out.
It attracts them, doesn't it? Yeah.
You know, look, we have to just get on with life, and we're not all going to live in fear.
No.
But, you know, I don't live in this country anyhow.
Do you worry for your grandchildren, or probably soon great-grandchildren?
Well, you know, I would worry for anybody, you know, if I'm being perfectly honest out there. But, I mean, you know, I think...
Do you think it's reversible, though? Do you think we can get back to where it was?
Of course. Yeah. Undoubtedly. I mean, you know, when something gets rock bottom, it's easier to sort of start again, and that's exactly what Labour will do.
It's amazing, though, as somebody who has basically walked out of the country in pretty much disgust at the government, as somebody who, you know, comes back even you know, more and more rarely with every time you leave, you still remain really positive about the country. You're really enthusiastic about No, but hang on, you're really enthusiastic about WeFix. Really enthusiastic about Nigel turning it round.
We've got some brilliant people over here. We've got some brilliant people. They're just not allowed to conduct themselves and behave and do what they, you know, and you know, people with common sense, like you said, get people with common sense in the government, and everything changes. You know what I mean? I mean,
like we saw with Trump getting in the States.
Well, there you go.
Point.
I mean, you know, but you know, I'm saying, you know, I believe someone like Nigel Farage will turn it round, and I think it will turn it round very quickly. We all know what the problem is in the UK. Yeah. We're all not supposed to talk about it, but we've got too many ponces and benefit sheets and lazy people. Yeah. Right, that are robbing people that are contributing. We all know what the problem is.
Over half the workforce are net takers and contributors, so we're in the right state.
So, but all I'm trying to say is that's what you've got to tidy up. You've got, you know, you've got to make everybody that can work contribute. Obviously, look after the people that are genuinely disabled and generally have health problems. But I would say 75% of these ponces, right, are just conning along and on.
I'll tell you the other thing. I've always talked about my uncle on this show. My uncle started off as a labourer's apprentice, and you know what? He never got a brilliant job. He worked his way up to being a bricklayer, but because he worked his entire life rather than being on the social, he's ended up with his own house bought and paid for. He's into falconry. He's got his birds, so to speak. And I just think one thing that we forget saying to people is not everybody's going to be as rich as Charlie Mullins, but everybody who works has the dignity of that and will have a better life as a result.
I don't think it's about trying to be as rich as anybody. It's about having principles, being responsible and doing the best you can do. And I think that's the best you can ask for. I mean, look at these tube strikers now. They want to cut down from 36 hours to 32. I remember.
And other things they want, yeah.
Eh?
They want 75% off all national rail travel for them and their partners, and TfL don't even have the rights to do that.
But it's wrong. But what I mean, to cut down from 36 to 32.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done shifts that have been.
They don't even do.
hours.
I spoke to a train driver once. They don't even do the full day. He came out to do 4 days a week. I said, "How long do you do that?" He goes, 4 hours. So they actually do 4 hours on their day.
I say, well,
so 16 hours a week they're actually doing.
I was going to say, take their breaks away. Like they're doing next to nothing. But
75 grand they start.
But unfortunately, they've got us over a barrel because we need the tubes. But I know what I would do. I would get rid of the troublemakers.
Automate it.
Yeah, and all this union nonsense. You know where it's all going wrong.
Do you know what I'd do if I was Mayor of London? Tell you what I would do. I would train. I would train Polish drivers on the Polish Underground, and one day during a strike, just land them at Heathrow Airport and take over the whole system.
Maybe that's what'll happen. Maybe that's
you're right. We need automation like we have on the DLR. Anyway,
no, but the thing is, automation takes some time to roll out. Anyway, Charlie, listen. We've got to thank you for coming in. Also, you know, you and I worked on that MBE thing together with James Whale. I put the nomination in. You paid for everything, organised that dinner, Langham's, and that was a great thing to have done. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. And I just want to say one more thing about James, and it's probably not the best thing to bring up, but there's certain people that was after his job before he passed away. And I'm not looking at you two guys.
They've all disappeared, haven't they, mysteriously?
No, but all I'm saying is that is wrong, and they
vultures.
Well, he went in. He was very clear with management.
Who are you talking about, man?
Well, he said to me that certain people are after his job before he was gone, and I think that's disgusting.
Tell us in the news.
Do you know what? It's interesting because he did come in and tell the management what he wanted to happen, and he wants it to be us, by the way. But thank you so much to Charlie Mullins. You can give us a call 0344 499 1000.
Don't mean me, do you?
I don't mean you, two guys.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Okay, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould, and this is our permanent memorial to James Whale, so it's over to Asher.
Yeah, and tonight's little cliplet is, all the last ones have been him throwing people out of studio. They won't all be like that, but they're the very popular ones, and tonight's one is no different. It's a guy called Steve Hedley. He's been in over the years. He was Assistant General of, or whatever you call it, of the RMT. They're on strike. Although I got the tube in tonight, so I don't know, it's not a very good strike. Apparently it's just they started it up again. But anyway, so he's come in and he's gone a bit. He's been on a few shows and he just ends up shouting, and he's wearing the keffiyeh around him, and he's gone a bit deranged. And well, let's have a look at what happened. This was about over a year ago on a Saturday night. Here's me, James, and Steve Hedley.
60 grand a year, nobody has any sympathy. It's the easiest job in the world being a train driver.
Is it?
So,
You've ever done it then, James? You drove a train. Have you drove a train? Have you drove a train?
I actually have sat in and driven one.
You sat in a train, you haven't drove one.
They wouldn't let me. You don't need to do anything.
It's the easiest job in the world and you've never done it.
Easier, you can laugh as much as you like.
It's the easiest job in the world.
It must be easy. They do it every day.
You don't even need a driver. And all you do is hold the public.
You do need a driver.
You don't. All the public, you're holding them to hostage at the moment.
Oh, there we go. Cliches. James, I've known you 20 years and you haven't changed your cliches.
It's not a cliche.
The government are holding.
They haven't got any money.
Well,
the government have not got any money.
They've got plenty of money for wars. They've got plenty of money to give Ukraine. They've got plenty of money to give Israel. They could sell an arms to Israel. There you are.
Are you stupid, Steve? Are you completely nuts? I mean, you come in here dressed in a scarf with a...
It's a Palestinian scarf.
Do you actually really support the Palestinians?
Absolutely.
You think that's a really...
What about Hamas? What about Hamas?
I defend the Palestinians' right to defend themselves.
Yeah.
Do you say Hamas, it was a resistance?
Sorry, I believe the Israeli government are a fascist government. I believe the Israeli government are a terrorist government.
It's a democratic government, isn't it? It's a democracy.
Oh, so that's the case.
No, I'm not having this.
So he's democratic, is he?
This is not on.
Well,
you want to talk rubbish? Go and talk to the BBC or some other.
Well, what do you think about the Hamas?
What about free speech?
Was Hamas a legitimate action?
You're saying it, but I don't need to listen
what I'm saying to you is that I condemn terrorism, whether it comes from Hamas or from the Israeli government.
Right, so it has come from Hamas, but not from Israel. That's a war, isn't it?
Of course it has.
Well, no, that's defending themselves, isn't it?
No, because it's an occupied people.
Well, it is now. It wasn't in 2005.
It can't be self-defence.
They're not occupied.
It wasn't in 2005.
They've been occupied since 1947 when they drove the Palestinians off their land.
You need to look at your history books. 2005, they all left.
1947 is when the Nakba happened. I've never met such ill-informed people in my life.
Quiet. I don't want you in here anymore, Steve, because you are supporting the enemies of this country.
Right, so you're throwing me out, James, because you the defender of free speech, are throwing me out.
You've had free speech, but I don't have to allow you to carry on.
You the defender of free speech are throwing me out.
I am defending the freedom of this country. I don't need... If we're at war, as we soon are going to be, you won't be...
Who with the Palestinian children who you're murdering in their thousands.
Do you support the 7/7 bombers then? Because they did that for the Palestinians. Well, why not? They did that for the Palestinian people. Do you support the Borough Market stabbings?
Do you support 30,000 dead people, civilians?
Well, yeah, it's collateral damage. It's a legal war. It's the lowest amount
women and children.
It's the lowest amount of collateral damage ever.
Genocide in
It's not genocide,
Gaza.
is it? It's not genocide, is it? 25,000 people out of 2 million is not genocide.
Just hang on a moment.
It's genocide. It's deliberately harming in part or in full.
Ash is Jewish, and what you're saying to him is totally offensive.
Jewish, but it's not genocide, is it? It's irrelevant anyway, but it's not genocide.
It's not about being Jewish, it's about being a Zionist.
What is a Zionist?
A Zionist.
Should the Jews not have a homeland then?
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Why didn't they have one in Bavaria? It was the Germans that had the Holocaust, not the Palestinians.
So what
was Israel never the homeland of the Jews?
Not in occupied Palestine. No,
it was. I don't want him on the show.
That's why they find old Jewish texts from 3,000 years ago.
They occupied Palestine.
Don't want that either.
They occupied Palestine.
Most of them come from Arab countries.
They built people, they ransom ever since.
Most of them were expelled from the Arab countries, most of Israel.
No, that's not true. The Arab countries,
can you be quiet? Seriously, can you be quiet?
The Arab countries actually gave the Jews refuge when the Holocaust was happening. How about that?
They were on the Nazi side. You don't know your history.
You don't know your history.
I don't know what he says. I'm executive producer.
Are you arguing that the Nakba took place? The United Nations recognised that the Nakba took place.
You're talking rubbish.
You know rubbish.
United Nations recognised that the Nakba took place.
I'm trying to kick him out. What do you want me to do?
Is the UN? Is this the UN that were on the Hamas attack? Is this the UN that are totally bent and corrupt organisations? Do you mean that UN?
To investigate genocide.
Yeah.
This young lady is showing you out.
This young lady is showing you out.
The Israeli government are now being brought before the world because everyone has recognised that there was a genocide going on.
This is what
I'm not talking rubbish.
You are, you say.
The Palestinian people are an occupied people and they've got a right to defend themselves.
No.
They weren't in 2005. They were totally free in 2005.
Hamas didn't exist in 1947 when you started occupying their land. Hamas didn't exist. Netanyahu making the same statements about Hamas that he did about the PLO.
Very similar. Very, very similar. Same thing. Terrorists.
Oh, really?
Same thing.
Your state's a terrorist state, isn't it, Ash? That's the reality.
No.
Britain's a terrorist state. America's a terrorist state. And Israel is a terrorist state. This is the reality of it. Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Well, it's not a terrorist state, is it?
It's a terrorist state. Right, James, you're trying to assault me, James. You're trying to assault me, James.
I'm an old man with cancer.
Well, James, don't please.
Well, do what I ask and go.
I'm not going to go. And you won't be able to remove me, James. So please don't.
Why? What are you going to do?
I'm making a statement. I'm making a statement here for Palestine.
A statement of rubbish. She's talking rubbish.
Take your book and go out and support Palestine. I know you want to hit me.
I'm not going to hit you, James.
No, you're not. You're absolutely right.
Not at all.
You equate Hamas with Israel.
You're a silly little man. You're a silly little man. A genocide enabler. A genocide enabler, James.
You talk crap. That's all you can spout. All you can spout is that crap, isn't it? Genocide and that wasn't a right said Fred Domestic. That was James Whale throwing Steve Hedley out of the studio, probably for about the third time, because you can't really have a rational conversation with him. But same time next week we'll be remembering James Whale every week from 11 with a great clip. Get your votes in to us, and we'll get next week. But next we're going to talk to a massive online presence, Billboard Chris. How you doing, Chris?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me.
So you're a sort of transgender anti-activist?
I'm a pro-child advocate.
No, you're not transgender yourself. No, that would have.
So Billboard Chris, you rose to fame because you decided to just start taking out adverts that were pro-children and saying that they shouldn't have their genitals amputated, they shouldn't be given puberty blockers, and you've taken a fair degree of hate about that in your native country. Why don't you just bring us up to speed for those of our viewers who haven't seen you before?
Sure. Well, I'm a walking, talking human billboard, I guess.
You're Canadian, aren't you?
I am, and I travel around the world, but I started this off with a billboard that was very controversial for its hate message. It said, "I love J.K. Rowling." And I was following the lead of a woman here in the UK who put up that sign at the Edinburgh train station, and it got taken down for hate speech. And I got tired of people not being able to talk about things.
Yes.
And what has J.K. Rowling done? All she does is defend women and children. And she's the world's greatest children's author, and we can't say we love her. So I put up a big billboard on the side of the road in Vancouver, Canada, that said the same thing. It also lasted just a day, got taken down.
Is it worse there than here?
No.
Similar. What, you mean it's worse here?
Freedom of speech is worse in the UK for sure.
What do you mean, in a legal sort of governmental way? I mean, you had your problems, didn't you, with your president or prime minister, didn't you?
Right, just to be clear, Canada doesn't have a president, it has a king. Guess who it is?
And we had our Justin Trudeau, who doesn't know how many genders there are, but...
Yeah. By the way, we don't allow criticism, just to be clear, we don't allow criticism of Justin Trudeau because he's Canada's first black prime minister. We don't allow that.
That's right, we got to take it easy on him. But no, we don't have people getting arrested for writing social media posts. Like over 30 people here in the UK are getting arrested. No, that's
not
never
happened. Nothing happens like that.
No,
so it's sort of like USA in that you got the freedom of speech.
Yeah, we're not as strong. Our Constitution isn't as strong as the First Amendment. But I say whatever I want, wherever I want, in defiance of what the government wants, and I'm totally fine. The problem is you get all these corporations who, if you were to say what I would say, they would fire you because it goes against their personal policies.
And you had that because of what Trump said. You've got in that ridiculous man who used to run our Bank of England in now. I mean, what's going on there, man?
Yeah, he was governor of the Bank of Canada too, and he's a Goldman Sachs guy. Who failed upwards, I think, at Goldman Sachs is what I've been told. But he's a climate zealot. Well, we'll see. I think he's more pragmatic than Trudeau. But he's just
Trudeau was just an extremist, wasn't he, in reality?
An extremist, and honestly, he's as dense as a bag of hammers. He just doesn't know what's going on.
And I'll tell you what, the other thing that was depressing about Trudeau was that he's basically just to the manor born. But anyway, let me talk to you about the big thing that's happened this week, which is the murder of Charlie Kirk. We can talk all day about the fact that certain people are cock-a-hoop. We saw Nadia Hussein, who is the winner of MasterChef 6. She was talking about how, oh, well, you know, good riddance and all. I forget exactly what she said, but she called him a bigot and an Islamophobe. We saw Turning Point UK say that the reason for this attack was the language of people like David Lammy. You yourself have had your arm broken in the past. Let's just watch a video before you comment on Charlie Kirk of what you described as a fairly minor incident, but this is from Glasgow just a couple of days ago.
I love the suit.
Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
Don't touch me.
I'm about to call the police on you. So you're gonna calm right the down and you're gonna keep walking. You understand? Keep walking.
It's horrendous.
So, I mean, how worried are you about the situation with Charlie Kirk? Because there seems to be a direction of travel. That instant was somebody grabbing your mic and having a bit of a go at you. You look as if you weren't overly worried. But there is a direction of travel, which is prohibit free speech, lock people up that you don't like, and then basically stand by and don't mind if they're injured or killed.
Yeah, the left is advocating for violence. They're celebrating violence. We've seen this. We've seen posts with hundreds of thousands of likes glorifying the death of Charlie Kirk. And what has Charlie done?
But that's the reason why he was shot, because of this horrendous what's going on. People, they're calling him far right. They're saying that you're fascist Nazis, and this results in people with low IQs shooting him.
Charlie had conversations with people who had differing opinions, and he had civil conversations. It's the same thing I do on this issue on the street. I'm no Charlie Kirk, he's a legend. Charlie Kirk built probably the most powerful conservative organization in the United States that was helping to swing the elections, but more importantly, it was helping to change the culture on college campuses. And universities are ground zero for everything that is going wrong in the world. So he's a huge threat to the left. But this kid that shot him, I call him a kid, he's 22 years old. He's been radicalized somehow.
Yes.
Yeah.
But look at who's doing the radicalizing. It's the media. It is all these university professors.
Politicians.
It's every institution on the left using language like Charlie's a fascist.
Well, look at the Oxford Debating Society. The incumbent chairman, and maybe he won't be, he might resign, was going, lol, he's been shot, this guy. And not only that, the strange thing and the evil thing about it is he would have had lunch with him or dinner with him about a month ago, shook his hand, looked him in the eye, and then he's celebrating the man's death. I mean, these people on the left, they're deranged. I think some of them have mental illnesses, and they're evil, are they not? Or do you think they're actually sort of almost like in a cult? I mean,
it is like a cult for many practical purposes. Gender ideology is certainly a cult for all practical purposes, the largest one in the world.
And the green issues as well.
I'll tell you what we were worried about, Chris. Obviously the name Tyler Robinson had not been mentioned. This suggestion that the FBI have made today, that the bullet that killed Charlie Kirk had scraped into it, hey, fascist, catch. Right. Now, we don't know if that's true. That's what the FBI have said. That's what they're alleging. The courts will decide. But what we were saying, Asher and I, last night, is there is a world in which the shooters, the people attacking, are victims as well. And the reason I say that is because there is going to be somebody emotionally unhinged or educationally subnormal who genuinely believes that the killing of Billboard Chris makes a Holocaust less likely. There are people who've been told that, and there are people who will believe it. Now, look, I could paper the walls with people saying far-right fascists, all this sort of thing, and we don't take it seriously because we think it's ludicrous. But what we're forgetting is the number of young people who've been indoctrinated into believing, as an example, that if Nigel Farage becomes the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, there will be gas chambers built in Clapham Junction.
And it only needs one, and there's plenty of deranged people.
Yes, there's a group psychosis going on, is what it is. It's mass hysteria. I was in Brussels recently. I was put in jail along with my friend Lois McClatchy-Miller.
Yes.
I think you know her from ADF
She
International.
came on the show that night, actually, yeah.
Oh, okay. And what were we doing? Standing peacefully on the street, waiting for people to approach us to have a conversation about why children can't be maimed and sterilized. But all throughout that city, we were being called fascists. And these people believe it.
And then you get arrested, so the authorities play along with it, and they sort of, the process is the punishment, from what I heard. What sort of process happened to you when you were arrested?
So we were strip searched, thrown in jail.
I mean, why would you need to be strip searched when you're just someone with a placard?
That's right. So there's no
they're trying to punish you with the process there.
But I'll tell you, so I haven't spoken about this publicly. An interesting story considering the time right now. As I was getting strip searched, the guard in the jail said to me, as I'm standing there in my underwear, he said, "So are you like Charlie Kirk?"
Wow.
And I said, "No, I mean, we talk about some of the same issues, but, you know, Charlie is, of course, a legend."
Did you delve into what he meant by that? Did you?
Well, I think he actually probably supported what I was doing and supported my message, but the person he knows of from the United States of America who has conversations
was Charlie Kirk.
So Charlie Kirk was having an impact all over the world.
Do you think he would have been president, Charlie Kirk? He was seen as sort of a Kennedy figure, and what happened to him being shot in front of his family in a horrendous way was so similar, so many parallels.
Yeah, I think for sure he would have been one day. He's not even old enough to be right now. You have to be 35.
I think what would have
probably in 12 years or so.
I think what would have happened, and it would depend. I think for vice president you have to be 35 as well because you're a member of the Senate. So
because you might become president.
Yeah, you might become president.
What I thought was, of course. What I thought was, depending on how 31 he was, J.D. Vance might have made him the vice presidential candidate, because it would depend when his birthday was as to whether he'd made it to 35 by inauguration day.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie had his whole life ahead of him still. So he had 30 years to make that decision.
Yes.
Right? Even longer. Look at the presidents now. They're all in their 70s.
Yeah.
But he was building this extremely powerful organization that was almost more powerful than any temporary government job.
But J.D. Vance will run for president, and that would have been the obvious choice for vice president.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what,
Marco Rubio's a good choice too.
That's a good point. I'll tell you what, let's go back. Let's go to a break, because I do want to talk about your ongoing campaigns and how you see things going in Britain. But just to be clear, what Billboard Chris is campaigning about, when we talk about chemical castration of sex offenders, those are the drugs that the Tavistock Clinic were given to children who were presenting as trans. Now, look,
they still are, by the way, to existing
There's an EU loophole,
patients,
apparently.
And they want to do a clinical trial on kids, which is totally unethical and unnecessary.
I'll tell you what, okay, so we'll stick with us, because we're going to talk about the clinical trial of chemically castrating children. Unbelievable, depressing, but next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. And I was going to say, I've decided how I'm going to describe you. The child safety campaigner, Billboard Chris. OK, Chris, look, during the break, we tried to get our heads around exactly what's going on. Do you know what I think we'll do, Asher and I? Why don't we ask you to give us an update on where we're up to with puberty blockers, castration, chemical castration, laws in this country, rules in that country. What's happening right now?
The way parents are getting around these rules through loopholes.
Sure. So in England, they banned puberty blockers for new patients.
And that's chemical castration, right?
Yes.
Right,
the same exact drug is given to pedophiles in various jurisdictions in the world to chemically castrate them.
Fine. Okay.
They're not eligible for parole until they get it.
Right.
And they give this to kids.
Yes.
Now, the kids are still getting it. If a kid had started it, if a child had started this 1 month before the ban went into effect, they can stay on it for the duration of their puberty.
Okay.
And
will it cause them to be sterilised and
yes.
not have sexual function?
Yes. When you start puberty blockers at what is called Tanner stage 2, that's the beginning of puberty when these kids are 10, 11, 12 years old, and they progress to the cross-sex hormones, which are still legal for children in England.
How? Why?
They didn't ban them. They did in Scotland.
Did they leave a loophole on purpose? Because what parents are doing is going to other jurisdictions like Ireland and being able to get it through that.
Yeah, and they're travelling to Spain to get these drugs.
So do
they
you
need
think that
to
was
criminalise
left on
this.
purpose to get to allow? Because there's still all activists inside these institutions.
Well, this is following guidance of the NHS. And if you read Dr. Hilary Cass's report, I mean, it's good in that it does say truthfully that there is no evidence to support transitioning kids. And of course, you compare that to the grave harm that's being done. Yeah. But she kind of uses the language of the left and believes that some people are transgender. So there's still that problem there.
It's
and
still
they still want to do it.
It's still captured.
It's still captured by this ideology.
Here's what I want people to understand, and you are you've got so much more expertise on this than I have. But here's what I understand: that people will go onto parents' forums, you know, Mumsnet or whatever. I don't know if it's just Mumsnet, but they go on and they'll say, my child is saying that they are trans. And what people will say in response is, oh my God, do you know the number of trans children that commit suicide? If you do not go down this process, your child will die. Now, the reason I make that point
I
is
would love
because,
to address that.
Yeah, because the reason I make that point is because a lot of these parents are not bad people. They're being told their child will die if they do not follow this. Why don't you address that? Yeah, do it.
What a form of coercion to tell a parent that they can have a dead daughter or a live son.
Yes.
The only way you can justify this child abuse is by saying kids will die if you don't do it. But what's the evidence for that? None. This has been a despicable lie.
There's evidence they'll die if you do it.
Suicides do go up after transition, without a doubt.
Yeah.
But the only evidence we have, the only actual study that's ever been done was Finland. They looked at 24 years worth of data from 1996 to 2019, and there were 7 suicides out of 2,000 kids over 24 years, a 0.052% annualized rate. And they compared it to a control group, a sample group of 17,000 kids. The suicide rates weren't that different. The common denominator was other mental health problems.
But also, here's the other thing, Chris, that I wonder about, because when you, let me give you an example about my friend who died during coronavirus, right? So he was somebody who, because he was locked up, he drank himself to death during coronavirus. Now, when you look at the figures, they turn around and they say, the justification for the lockdown was the increased number of deaths amongst younger people. So he was included in a statistic that was presented as evidence for the lockdown being a good idea. Because effectively they said, look, there were increases in young people dying. They included my friend who drank himself to death, who would not have drank himself to death had there not been a lockdown. What it seems to me happens with and forgive me if I'm losing the audience, but what it seems to me happens with these statistics is they turn around and they say, trans children are more likely to commit suicide, but they don't include the statistic for people who are not transitioned when they say they're trans, right? So if you're my dad and I walk up to you and go, oh, I'm trans, and you go, no, you're not counted in the statistic. You're only counted in the statistic if you do start some sort of trans therapy. So this statistic on suicides amongst trans people, if it were true, would more likely demonstrate the treatment they're being given is leading to the suicides rather than the fact that they presented themselves as trans in the first place. I don't know if you followed that, but you see my point?
Now, can you start again from the beginning?
Yeah, so in the United States, there was a lawsuit that went to the Supreme Court because Tennessee put a ban in place and the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, were suing for the right to sterilize kids.
Yes.
The same organization sued not to give these drugs to pedophiles, by the way.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Anyway, Chase Strangio, a woman pretending to be a man, the lawyer for the ACLU, she admitted before the Supreme Court Justice that actually completed suicides are very rare. And what they've been talking about this whole time is suicidal ideation. But no, that's not what they've been talking about. They are saying kids are going to die if you don't transition them.
That's right.
And it's a ridiculous, absurd lie.
It's evil, isn't it?
Humans have been around for a long time. Kids weren't killing themselves because they were born in the wrong body.
But if I believe... So, this is the other thing that worries me a great deal, Chris, is this. If I believe that I was born in the wrong body... Right? By definition, I'm wrong. But if I believe I was born in the wrong body, this is what we're finding increasingly. If I have gender reassignment surgery, to the extent that it's possible to do that, I will still believe I'm in the wrong body. So the point is, I always give the example of the people who, there's a weird condition where people believe their arm is alien or their leg shouldn't be there. And nobody turns around and says, if you believe you shouldn't have this hand, let's chop off your hand. What they say is, look, you've got a weird thing with your hormones or with your mental health state, but it is not the solution to the arm problem to chop off your arm.
You're right, but do you want to hear something crazy?
Go on.
So that's a condition called apotemnophilia, where people think like their leg doesn't belong, for example.
Yes.
And a doctor did cut off some legs in
he
America.
talks about that.
And then they put a stop to it. But I was just at a conference last week, sitting beside a doctor who told me she was in the room when a surgeon signed off on cutting off a man's leg just because he wanted it cut off. For no good
well,
reason.
we've just got a surgeon in this country who actually did amputate limbs, and he had a sexual fetish and he wanted his legs to be amputated. He'd froze them with dry ice, then got sepsis and had to go to hospital. And now all of his patients who had bits removed are saying, he's in prison now, are saying, well, maybe he removed my bits, you know, and he didn't need to. But the question I'd like, because you've looked into all these long-term studies, what's the percentage of people who have transitioned who then basically when they were kids talked into it have said, this is I've changed my mind. You can't obviously reverse it. They'll try things, but you'll never come back the way you were.
Well, you end up hideously disfigured.
What is the percentage of people that turn around and say, oh, this was a mistake when they're a few years down the line?
The most comprehensive study ever done where nobody was lost to follow-up, as often happens. You don't know what happens to them.
Yeah.
In Sweden, where nobody was lost to follow-up, the suicide rate 10 years after sex reassignment surgery was 19.1 times higher than their peers and 40 times higher than the general public. When I say 19.1 times higher than their peers, I'm talking about people with similar mental health comorbidities. I don't have the exact percentage.
Yeah, but what about actual people who, you know, weren't going to commit suicide, but really, like there was someone here who sued the companies, you know, who they're not going to commit suicide, but they know it was a mistake. They're going to carry on with their lives. You know, is there any figures for that?
No, we don't have excellent statistics on this.
Because they don't want us to have them, do they?
It's probably
not. But there's also, in most countries in the world, if someone goes to this clinic and then they leave, you don't know what happens to them.
Yes, I get that.
They give them testosterone, they don't know what happens to them afterwards.
Here's what, no, I'll tell you what, why don't we go to a break and we'll keep chatting about this, but I'll tell you what I want to ask Chris next. I'm going to ask him and he can prepare the answer in the break. When I was a little boy, I used to watch these programmes about abuse in care homes in places like Wales, because there was all these documentaries about them, and I thought, how on earth could the authorities have allowed this to happen? And then, of course, I looked at the Tavistock Clinic and thought that's going to be exactly the same thing. In 5-10 years' time, we're going to have that. And I'm going to ask Chris how close we are to the prosecutions for the Tavistock straight after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Something to make your life worthwhile.
Okay, well, I'll just repeat what you said, because part of it went out.
You can do nothing in this world trying to stay safe and get hit by a car, or you can make your life full of meaning, get out there, put yourself out there.
Like Charlie Kirk. I mean, the next Charlie Kirk, if there will be another one, you know, you shouldn't be cowed into, you know, thinking this is dangerous. You're going to be doing a university tour in this country. Are you going to be going in America, and are you going to be a bit worried about that? I mean, you're brave, you'll do it anyway, but...
Yeah, I've been to about 50 universities already. I just walk onto campus and I talk to people. But I'm going to have a proper tour with speaking events set up. And I'm not worried about the backlash. We have to double down. We cannot let people try to use violence.
You're doing the free speech march tomorrow in London, aren't you?
I am. I'm speaking at it, yeah.
Right, okay. So.
And what will you tell the crowd?
Well, I haven't written my speech yet, but I'll talk a little bit about gender, but I think this is more about freedom of speech and bravery and courage, and not letting all the fearful voices in the world influence you to be silent. Because the world's always been a violent place.
Do you wear a bulletproof... I mean, I know Charlie Kirk did, but it didn't hit him in the chest.
Well, most places I go, I'm not allowed to wear them. Like in my own country, it's illegal to wear body armor.
Is it?
Is it?
It is.
Why?
I know you can get some here. In a few provinces, it's legal, but I guess the theory behind it is if the police are chasing some criminal, they don't want him having a bulletproof vest.
They need to be able to shoot you,
Okay, so before the break, I did ask you this question, which is... how close are we to criminal charges against people at the Tavistock and other places? Because I'm convinced that amputating the genitals of the mentally ill is just a despicable process.
I don't think we're at all close. This matter still has not been criminalized, so it's hard to have criminal charges when they haven't criminalized it.
But what about civil charges by people who want to detransition and whatever?
Yeah, they need to get going with that. That's happening in the U.S. now. I know of about 20 different cases.
With the Supreme Court ruling here, you know, in favour of, you know, men are men and women are... In Australia, didn't they have the opposing sort of view in their courts?
So it depends which trial you look at. I actually just won a huge trial against the Australian government.
Oh, go on.
I had 5 days of trial a few months ago. What they did was they told X to take down one of my posts where I called a woman a woman.
How dare.
And I criticized her appointment to the World Health Organization. She writes about orgies and all sorts of terrible stuff. And naturally, she was appointed to the World Health Organization, even though she's not a doctor.
That's a nest of evil.
And she's this radical queer theorist. But I criticized her appointment and I called her a woman. So Australia's E-Safety Commissioner, the E-Karen, deemed that to be cyber abuse, and they ordered X to take down my post or face an $800,000 fine. X geo-blocked it in Australia. I filed an appeal. Elon Musk also filed an appeal. Both of our appeals were heard at the same time. So I sat there for 5 days for my 40-word tweet, and we won decisively basically every point that the they lost on.
This is one of the concerns that was raised at the hearing in Congress a couple of weeks ago. And I think the Democrats willfully misunderstood what was being said. They stood up and said, how can you attack Britain, the EU, Australia, and ignore China and Russia? But actually, the hearing wasn't about free speech for Chinese, Russians or British people. The hearing was about countries that are attempting to force American citizens in America using American companies from saying what they want to say. Because remember, the online safety bill in the United Kingdom will basically say the following, that if Twitter puts information about, as an example, suicide on there, unless it prohibits or children under the age of 18 in the UK seeing it, then that's content which was uploaded in America, written by an American on a platform owned and hosted in America. The platform itself will have to pay up to 10% of its global revenue as a fine. That is crazy.
The Americans won't put up with that. Trump won't, and Vance won't put up with that.
The DSA in Europe is the same, 6% of revenue. And look at my case in Australia. So
they're not going to be able to do that to American companies and affect American people. Trump and Vance.
Well, they'll fight back. Yeah. But my case in Australia is a perfect example of this. I'm a Canadian who tweeted out a Daily Mail article, a British article, on an American platform, and an Australian bureaucrat who's actually American banned it across the whole world.
Like Graham Linehan. I mean, you probably know. I'm sure you know him because you're in the same field, you know? So tell us about what's going on with Graham Linehan. I mean, with this...
so
not the current case, obviously, but his tribulations.
Graham wrote a little spicy post about perhaps kicking men in the nether regions if you see them in a women's...
No, he said punch. He said punch.
Yeah, punch. Whatever. It's nothing. He gets off the plane at Heathrow and he's arrested right away.
Look, he's not been charged. He's not going to be charged.
He's not been charged. Right.
It was a waste of time. So what he said was, as a joke, was if you see a trans woman in your toilet, punch her in the balls.
Yeah. And he did it from America. He's an Irish citizen, so this is again what you're talking about.
So it's Irish citizen tweeting in America, American platform hosted in America, and now the UK wanted him arrested.
But that Australian bill started like the UK one. It was about stopping childhood sexual exploitation, because everyone can get behind that. But these bills are always a Trojan horse for censoring the entire population on anything the government doesn't want you talking about.
Just say it's the children and you can use it. And if you say anything against it, as that guy said about Farage, oh, you're just as bad as Jimmy Savile. I mean, this is how disgusting way they behave.
What makes me laugh about the ludicrous nature of saying, you're just like Jimmy Savile. Jimmy Savile was alive and offending when the internet existed, and he didn't use the internet.
But the ridiculous thing is language like that causes the deaths of Charlie Kirk. This is what does it. This is the rhetoric that does this.
This is the same government that looked the other way as 100,000 girls were being
still looking the other way
by Pakistani Muslims.
They're still looking the other way, and it's still going on, these rape gangs.
But they'll get you for your mean tweet.
Yeah.
Well, all you have to do, I've always said that if you are a victim of grooming or know somebody, just misgender the bloke who did it.
Right.
And then the police will be fully involved then. But actually, on the subject of the police, I mean, are you worried that they are now no longer on the side of the people? Because it used to be, I mean, when I grew up, which is not that long ago, it was basically nice bloke living in the police house at the end of the street. He'd go into the local pub on a Friday and Saturday night, and they'd be like, oh, Jimmy's been nicking bikes again, and that sort of thing. Now they're like this regional SS descending like gods, and no interest in the community. They don't really solve crime in any meaningful sense. They're just social workers.
I don't want to criticize another country, but they're not on the side of the people. They're on the side of the radical activist organizations that come in and do their training.
Yes.
Just last weekend, I was at the March for Life, and then I was at one of the big squares in London. I forget what it's called. And one of the pro-Palestine...
Almost certainly Trafalgar.
It was a different one. I apologize. But one of the pro-Palestine protesters walked by and smashed a small tub of ice cream on my head.
Really?
In front of 100 police officers.
Was it Russell Square, maybe?
I don't think the square matters.
But 100 police officers were there.
Yeah.
He's walking away. I've got ice cream all over my head. Yeah. That's a common assault.
It is a common assault.
And what did the police officer say as the man's walking 50 feet away? Well, let's get your details, sir.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll look into my information.
But what about the...
And they wouldn't do anything about it.
The unbelievable thing on Remembrance Sunday, when the police said that we should take down the flags from the Cenotaph simply because Palestine Action, or whoever they were saying they were going to rip them down. Now, what then happened was the rugby lads, the football lads, the old EDL people, whoever they were, turned up. Right, now, I would argue, I think legitimately, if the military, the police and the security services can't secure key British infrastructure, then there is nothing wrong with having a call-up of the volunteers, who are a little rough around the edges, right? But
a lot were ex-military themselves.
But here's what happens. So now the whole thing with the Cenotaph didn't happen. It was all properly organised. The police got themselves into gear. But the official statement by the Metropolitan Police read, largely peaceful protest. They said of the Palestinian protest, there were no examples of anti-Semitism at all. A million people, right? None at all. No instance of violence at all. No instance of racism at all. No instance of supporting Hamas at all. The tweet from the police officer, who is the head of counter-terrorism in London, was labelled as fake news by X. And then he made a further statement, which was this. We were so busy with the far-right thugs that we didn't notice what they were doing. I mean, that is just...
What was far-right? They were flying the English flag.
Yeah, that's right.
That's about it.
Right. And again, it's the rhetoric that is causing this polarisation and violence.
We were so busy with the far-right thugs.
I mean, they're inciting violence by all this. I mean, this is what these words lead to, calling people Nazis, fascists. It is inciting violence.
They call patriotism far-right.
Yeah, I know.
It's an interesting question from Jade. So she says, one thing I'd like to ask somebody wanting to transition is, how do you know you'd be happier being the opposite sex? As a female, I've no idea what it would feel like to be a man, so I can't compare the two in order to make that kind of decision to change my sex. As a child, I was a tomboy, and I feel that I was that way in this day and age. I would have been told I could possibly benefit from transitioning when I know that would have been the worst thing.
Of course.
Do you think they get groomed? Basically, there's activists who are grooming children.
Indoctrinated online and in schools and just in the culture.
No, but I mean, the doctors and the actual people in these clinics, are they sort of convincing them, oh no, you're not a tomboy, you're actually a...
By the time that child ends up in front of the doctor, they're already heavily indoctrinated and they believe they're now trans. But think of the doctors. So it's not 1,000 doctors doing this, it's a handful of doctors at these clinics. In every city.
That's their business as well.
It's their business, but these people are also true believers. And a lot of these doctors themselves are trans-identified. Right. A lot of the people writing the guidelines, like the president of WPATH, is a man pretending to be a woman. They themselves were originally victims of this cult, and like all cults, the victims become the recruiters and the perpetrators, and that's what's going on.
What about in the old days, we used to have people who we would call transvestites, and they were people who liked, when they went out clubbing on a Saturday night, to dress as women. But now that's become part of the trans community. They call it non-binary, but it's an old-style transvestite, isn't it?
Well, I mean, there's really different types of trans. There's the men who have a paraphilia. It's called autogynephilia. It literally means self-woman love. They get aroused by the idea of being a woman.
Apparently that is the majority of people.
Of the middle-aged men who are transitioning, for sure. Yeah. Then there's the gay community, people who perhaps have internalized homophobia or whatever. Yeah. Or they're just, you know...
I'm not gay, I'm actually a woman in a man's body.
Effeminate boys who are being led to believe that they're girls, and tomboys who are being led to believe they're boys.
The only country in the world up until maybe 20 years ago that said to gay people, you should transition and then it's all fine, was Iran.
Number 2 for surgeries in the world after Thailand, still to this day.
By the way, if you've got a question for Billboard Chris about any of this or anything else, 03444991000, we'll get you on.
By the way, Charlie Mullins said something quite controversial about somebody trying to take over from James Whale. I just want to be clear. It is no current or former presenter on Talk was involved in this incident. So don't worry, there's nobody that you watch. It's nobody. It was a regular guest who's not a regular guest anymore. Okay, so don't worry about it. What I don't want you to do is turn on the TV or turn on the radio and think, was it him?
What, Steve Hedley?
Yeah, can you imagine if it was
same haircut?
Can you imagine if it was Steve Hedley? Yeah. Right, okay, we're going to take... It was not Steve Hedley. Right, let's just be clear. What we're going to do is we're going to take your calls straight after the break. Billboard Chris is going to answer any question.
Start with Kevin Inverness.
Oh, we can do it right now?
No, I'm just making people salivate what they're going to get.
We have got...
lucky people.
We have got 4 slots available, 5 slots available. So if you call through now, you will get through 0344 499 1000. Back in a moment.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Okay, the Select Show with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Billboard Chris. And our first caller, I want to say, the gallery said to me, we've got the next caller is Kev in Inverness. Billboard Chris has just come back from Glasgow, so they can talk about what it's like in Scotland. Inverness, nowhere near Glasgow. Just
it's Scotland, isn't it? It's all pretty much the same. All right, Kev.
I was in Edinburgh too.
Kev, he was in Edinburgh as well.
Oh, you guys think up past Glasgow it's all car tracks that I have here, eh?
But you're not a Scottishman, are you?
No, I was born in Forres in Scotland.
Oh, no, he's gone all Scottish.
Yeah. No, I was born in Scotland, moved to England when I was young and then came back.
Okay, what do you want to say to Billboard Chris? Don't worry, Chris, if we need to translate, we'll...
I need to know what your debate's about because...
What, you mean you don't know what the debate is about? You just phoned in and you want us to tell you what the debate's about so you can debate it?
But my TV keeps breaking down. I can't...
So what, you guess what we're debating about then, Kev? Just debate away. Come on.
But I just think you two guys is a good show and you put on... You're very knowledgeable about your debate.
That's true.
Thank you so much. So I'll tell you what, Kev, let's do it. Are you worried about children being castrated on the grounds that they are trans?
Chemically castrated.
The silly stuff.
What?
At the end of the day, all I'll say in this is one point. If you were born with something between your legs that hangs down the way, you're a man. And if you're not...
Right. Amen to that, Kev. I mean, actually...
That's what Keir Starmer should have said when he was asked that time.
Kev, you're a good man.
That was very insightful.
Smarter than all the politicians put together.
Has to be said, remarkably understandable in the end, actually, from what we thought was a poor base. OK, Matt is in Oxford. Matt, you are on Talk.
Hey, fellas, yeah.
All right, Matt,
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, man. How are you guys?
Yeah, we're all right, but yeah, what's going on, Matt? What do you want to talk about?
That's a low voice. Yeah, well, just regarding the debate, as you're saying, I mean, the thing is, I don't see how it's like. What I don't understand is why it's mutually exclusive. I'm perfectly happy to address anybody as they wish to be addressed because it's good manners.
Yeah, but what about when they go in changing rooms and they're in sports and women losing their rights?
That's my point exactly. Well, my addressing them in that way and treating them that way is perfectly kind of conducive to me at the point saying, at the same time, what you wish to see yourself as, I can accommodate. But when you demand that the rest of us see you as that, when our literally every sense that we have tells us otherwise.
I mean, Chris,
Then I draw a line.
Yeah.
Instinctively, Chris, I think you probably don't agree with Matt, but he's got a reasonable point, hasn't he? Which is, if you want to say your name's Susan, I'm happy to go along with that. But when you say that you want to compete in women's sports, I'm not going to go along with that.
Well, if you want to say your name's Susan, you can call yourself whatever you want. If you want to say that you're a female, well, now you're asking me to lie. Okay. Now you're asking me to affirm a delusion. You're asking me to affirm a delusion which has led to a craze where hundreds of thousands of children across the world now think that they're born in the wrong body and they're being harmed. So
Chris,
the pronouns aren't just harmless. The pronouns are the gateway to giving legitimacy to an ideology. A bit like what we were talking about,
how it leads. I mean, there is evidence that it might have been a trans person who shot Charlie Kirk.
So Matt, instinctively, I think I'm kind of with you actually. But why don't you respond to what Chris said?
Well, essentially I agree. I mean, the point is that the way that I see it essentially is that, and this is it's slightly tangential, but again, this is the Britishness. I mean, if I had to establish in my own mind and boil it down to what it is to be British, it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's to have good manners and a sense of fair play.
Yeah.
But lies aren't good manners, right?
Yeah, but that's not fair play, isn't it? I mean, Chris is right. You shouldn't really be saying...
You have to be reasonable. I'll be reasonable with you.
But you're not being reasonable because it leads to people, with other things,
Thanks a lot, Matt. Let me put this to Chris. What if it didn't lead there? What if I turned up in a frock tomorrow and said my name is Tara? It's always Tara, isn't it? Said my name was Tara, and I want to be she, her. Would that necessarily mean that I was going to go and have some sort of surgical realignment, or am I just some deluded person in a dress?
Well, I'm not saying it's going to lead to you having a surgical realignment, but if we start acknowledging that all these people walking around are the opposite sex, it leads to this social contagion.
So you're saying the important difference is I can say I like to dress as a woman, but when I say I am a woman because I wear a dress, then that's where the line gets crossed.
Correct. Essentially now,
which I think is fairly sensible.
Society is telling us to say that the naked emperor has these magnificent golden robes on.
Yes.
We're asking people in society to be polite by affirming a delusion. That's not going to help anybody.
Is it your contention that it's harmful to affirm that delusion?
Absolutely.
It's a bit like saying to an anorexic person, yeah, you are overweight, isn't it? Going along with them rather than saying, no, you need to get help.
I mean, just as one example, look what's happened with these shootings recently in the United States.
Well, this is where it
by
leads
trans-identified
to,
people.
Yeah.
They are being convinced that because people like myself aren't going to lie to them, that there is an attempted genocide going on against them.
You're a Nazi, you're a fascist.
And it's leading to this extremist behavior where they think the world is out to get them. They're already obviously mentally unstable, but they're being treated by the left as though they're special and magnificent.
They're being enabled,
I mean,
and oppressed. And then simultaneously they're being told that this side's trying to genocide you, so they feel justified. And
I do worry. I mean, there are some classic mental health things here. When you believe, as an example, and there will be people who believe that you are personally communicating with them when they watch this TV or radio programme, those are people who are suffering from a mental health problem. You are not personally talking about anybody, and yet they will internalise that. That is a classic example of mental health. Also, to believe that there is a conspiracy against you is classic mental health.
So here's my message to all of these people who identify as trans.
Yeah.
I want the best for all of them.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to lie to them. And my message to everybody, my consistent message that I say all the time, is that children are beautiful just as they are.
Yes.
No drugs or scalpels needed, that there's no right or wrong way to be a girl or a boy. That if a girl wants to climb trees and play in the dirt and kick around the football with the boys, if she likes toys, she's a beautiful girl.
Can I tell you one thing? And I'm sorry to say this, and I get into trouble with my producer every time. Don't discourage the tomboys. They're always hotter when they get older.
And
they are.
You always want to marry the tomboys because they're more fun.
Well, Kylie Minogue, I remember she was the garage mechanic. Look how that turned out. Gorgeous.
The tomboys are well into sport. The more girly girls are into baking. Long term, the tomboys the better bet.
Talking of tomboys, here's Cindy. Cindy in Pigeon in Michigan, your fellow continent person.
I will say, Chris, Cindy was very upset yesterday, obviously, with the Charlie Kirk assassination. What do you want to say to Chris, Cindy?
I want to say, Chris, I stand with you. I don't honor delusions. I believe in telling the truth. And I do have a question. You're a powerful force on your own. But my personal opinion would be if you joined forces with Kelly J. Keane, you would both be rockets.
You must know, Kelly.
Have you ever thought about... I love her.
Explain who she is for our audience.
She heads LetWomenSpeak.org. She stands for children's not letting children have puberty blockers. She doesn't believe in the trans lie. She celebrates women and children as they are.
And she gets involved, doesn't she? She gets attacked by big, burly trans people. I mean, do you know her?
My name's Susan.
Yeah, I was on her podcast the day after I put up my big billboard because I was following her lead. She put up that sign at the Edinburgh train station. But the answer to your question is I'm happy to work with anyone who wants to work with me. I just do what I do. And I work with all sorts of organizations today. I meet people all over the world. A lot of people think I'm just on my own, but I do go to all sorts of things.
How can you afford to do all this? How do you get
I can't
funding?
afford to do all this. But I have started a nonprofit in the US now, so hopefully that will get some money into it. People can go to WeSpeakTruth.com and donate there. It's tax deductible.
And you've given
up
all work to do this. You were a financial advisor. You're all concentrated on this.
I quit 5 years ago, and all I've done is this.
5 years in a day.
A good idea. You know, a good idea. This is what Kelly's done. She's made T-shirts on her own with her own sayings on them, and they sell.
I need to do merchandise. I just haven't gotten around to it.
I'd like a mug with your face on it.
Can I tell you what I do? Quite genuinely.
A billboard.
Whenever there's a cause that I need to financially support, I go onto my YouTube channel and I've got what I call the Patriot Fund, and I beg the audience to send money. They don't send millions, but they will send money. People out there, particularly older people who can't get out on protests, will financially support you.
Yeah, they
can. I'll tell you, if you look in my closet, there's a million shirts by Kelly J. Keane.
There's a lot of other things in your closet, aren't there, Cindy?
Every day. I go every day in my shirts. Yes.
Yeah, represent, and we just have to tell the truth because the truth spreads for free and it compounds like compounding interest. And we're winning, and we have 28 states now that have banned this, whereas 3 years ago none had.
Can I ask you this question? Kelly, sorry, Cindy. We'll keep Cindy on, don't worry. But let me ask you this. Because I believe this is going to happen if it's not happened yet. Has any trans person or a parent come up and thanked you yet and said, oh my God, I was about to do this. I was about to harm my child or harm myself. Thank you for warning me.
Yeah, of course. No group of people have the same opinions on everything. They're not a monolith, and several trans-identified people completely support what I'm doing.
So what happened the first time somebody came up to you and talked to you in that sort of terms?
I mean, I wasn't surprised, to be honest with you.
Really?
This is such common sense. We're maiming and sterilizing children. If you don't have that opinion, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, but a lot
when someone has that opinion, I'm never surprised.
But a lot of parents with trans kids would never, even if they believe it, they wouldn't go against it because they're going against what their kid's done. It would be their fault. They deem it, and it is their responsibility. So maybe they couldn't admit to themselves and they'd be in denial.
Yeah. So most of the parents. So here's a fun fact for you. An older study showed that 52% of the moms of these boys with gender dysphoria, the moms themselves had borderline personality disorder.
Oh, wow.
Do you think it's happened from the raising of the child?
In many cases it is. It's not always, but if you look at the kids who go to these gender clinics, and if you look at the CAS review, which is the systematic review in the UK, 70% of these children had 5 or more coexisting mental health comorbidities.
A lot of autism, isn't there?
Autism is prevalent in the majority of cases. The Tavistock had 35% with moderate to severe.
I'll tell you what we're going to do.
And sexual abuse is super common.
I'll tell you what we'll do. Why don't we keep Cindy until after the news, because we haven't properly talked to her. Chris, do you mind staying with us for a little bit longer?
No problem.
Because we've got so many
callers. He's all right, he hasn't even got a job anymore.
Yeah,
he's got nothing else to do.
I'm just conscious that you're up early for the protest tomorrow. Okay, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Why don't we give out the number, give out all of our social media, and then come back, regroup, and you can talk to some more of our listeners. So at Virtual Ashes, him.
At Andre JP Walker.
Billboard Chris.
And 03444991000. If you've got a question for Chris or you want to talk about anything, Charlie Kirk, what's going on, Kirsten, we got Johnny, Mark, Tim, Norrie, Heather, Greg, Sue, and Stallion. Are you going on the Freedom March? Give us a ring tomorrow if you're going. Are you worried or what's going on? But join us in a couple of minutes. Here is the latest news. You're listening and watching Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, it's the Late Show with Andre Walker and Ashley Gould. Just to be very clear, everyone, that is the Sky News that comes on at this time of night. I have to say to you, 12-year-old girl drugged and raped in a car park in Dover, right? And we haven't mentioned who the perpetrators were because they were convicted and sentenced. I think we all know why Sky News did not mention who the perpetrators were. But anyway, I mean, I don't know the names, but I'm going to come back next week. I'll find out the names of the people that were convicted and how long they've been in the country, or indeed if they were British nationals, because I just find that absolutely shameful. It's Dover, it's right next to the port, it's a young girl being drugged. Well, anyway, okay, but just to be clear, that is not the news that comes from us, our company. We buy it in from somebody else overnight. Okay, look, I guess we'll go back to Cindy, because Cindy, we didn't give you time to speak, but this is a phone-in with Billboard Chris. Cindy, go for it.
Thank you. Thank you. I also want to say, you know, I believe if someone wants to dress up, I want to make sure that I make it clear. Fine. That's fine. Dress up. I believe you have the right to be safe. It didn't have the same rights as another walking human being, but I don't want you in my restrooms. I don't want you in my children's restrooms. I don't want you in our sports.
Yes.
That's what I want to make clear.
What about, and I know what Chris is going to say about this, I know what Julia Hartley-Brewer would say, what about people who've had their well, let's call it what it is, their penis and testicles removed?
It doesn't matter to me.
I've been told off, somebody said penis and testicles is a very man's view of what makes a man, just what makes a woman, rather, and actually most women would be uncomfortable with a man in their changing rooms, whatever corrective surgery he's had. Is that your view, Cindy?
No, it isn't. Your chromosomes are what make you male or female. Your chromosomes.
So it doesn't matter whether there's a penis and testicles.
So yeah, it doesn't exactly.
I mean, ultimately, it's not even chromosomes; it's gametes. It's the
gametes,
sperm and eggs. What you're designed to produce.
Because there are XY and the
there
XX,
are chromosomal abnormalities.
Well, yeah,
sometimes
but in the main, you're XX or XY, and that determines.
Well,
whether
sometimes you can be XXY. It's a
yeah, but that's quite a rarity, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cindy,
but I'm just saying, it's ultimately, technically, it's the gametes that your body's designed to produce that determines your sex.
Cindy, do you think that Billboard Chris was right in what he said, that actually, people now need to be more bold than they were perhaps earlier this week, that the whole Charlie Kirk thing really has to be a clarion call for us to not cower and instead be brave enough to risk our lives for this?
Absolutely, 100%. We need to be brave. We need to not cower to, pronouns and this and that. Let's honor the truth. Let's speak the truth and how we really feel. It's okay to speak the truth. It doesn't mean that you're rude. I've had people say because I'm straightforward that I'm being rude. No, I'm just
saying the truth. It's called freedom.
What about this idea? What about this idea? And we've seen it in Britain with people being sent to prison and their treatment in prison, and we've seen it in America with the multiple, how do we say this politely, oversights by US Secret Service, and we saw it with Charlie Kirk. Is there now view in America, because I think there is in Britain, that there is a deliberate effort by the authorities to not protect right-wingers in the knowledge that some trans activist or some jihadi or some extremist will kill them on behalf of the establishment that wants rid of them?
I believe that. And not to go back to the UK side, but you look at Kelly J. Keane, and she's not very well protected.
No.
I'm going to say that.
Do you feel that there is an attempt to deliberately not put you? I find it hard to say. Is there an effort to ignore your protection deliberately, Chris?
Well, I don't have protection.
Yeah.
Sure, but do you need some?
Protection costs money. I got better things to do with money right now.
But protection is the duty of your country. So my
argument, if I'm in a place where there's a whole bunch of police officers, then yes, they should be doing some protection. But I'm often just on a city street. There's not just police.
But we have examples in the UK that if somebody stabbed you and kicked you, then there was a recent case with the burning of the Quran where that would make you more guilty of the offence because the person was so offended.
That was a disgrace what the judge said there, encouraging people to
I mean, just last week I was assaulted in front of the police and they did nothing.
Yeah, with the ice cream, like you said before.
And what would happen if it's compared to the other cases? If it went to court, they'd say, "Oh, well, that proves you were doing wrong because someone attacked you."
I've had great police. I've had bad police. They're people like anything. I've had police that blame me. What am I doing? I'm standing quietly with a sign. It's like fishing. I wait for people to come up to me, and I have a sign that says children cannot consent to puberty blockers. A sign that has been also affirmed by the Supreme Court or the High Court here in England, which said exactly that. But I've had police say, well, you're provoking them.
What do you think about the judiciary? They're political activists.
The judiciary are completely captured.
Yeah, exactly. They're political activists. Sorry, Cindy.
Cindy, we'll give you the final word and then we're going to move on.
Make it good.
Puberty blockers should be outlawed.
Thanks, Cindy.
Right. Let's go to Tim. But I noticed Ken in London phoned up, so let's try and get him on after Tim, simply because he's somebody who's a street protester as well. Tim in Portsmouth. Well, you're through to us and Billboard Chris. What have you got to say?
Hello, how you doing?
We're all right, man. How are you, Tim? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good tonight. Yeah, thanks, guys. Chris, you're doing a brilliant job, mate. I've got experience with this. I'm divorced now, but I had 3 stepchildren. The older boy was gay, not a problem at all with me. The daughter had a few problems, but she turned out to be great. The youngest one, at 19, my wife was literally not nosing, my wife at the time, going in his bedroom to get some bed sheets out of a drawer and found HRT tablets, like sort of, that hormone replacement. And
so estrogen pills.
Estrogen pills, was it?
Yeah.
Were these actual issued from a doctor, pharmaceutical prescription?
No, off the internet.
Oh, right.
I was going to say they wouldn't give you HRT. It would have a different badge, wouldn't it?
So what did you do about that?
Something like that. But she found these tablets and she showed me them. So we questioned him, and he said, "Oh, for the last..." And he was growing his hair a bit longer at the time. It was a bit weird because he was always those clean-cut sort of hair, tall, skinny lad, a bit geeky, on there playing games every night indoors. Never went out anywhere. Had the earphones on, playing with people, these games they play over the internet.
Yeah.
And questioned it. Asked me about it. So she asked him, and he said, "For the last 6 months, I felt like I want to be a woman, and all this sort of stuff." And I think this is internet-based, to be honest with you.
Do you think... I've met people who were indoctrinated into this by playing video games because they're talking with people on the other side of the world.
On the chat thing, yeah.
And they get indoctrinated that way, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it was just the video game side of it, but because he spent all the time in his room...
Right. You end up in a rabbit hole looking online and he's found this, hasn't he? Yeah. That's basically it.
Yeah.
But have you asked
kids shouldn't have phones or computers in the room. That's my advice to all the parents out there today.
I mean, what did you do? I mean, what did you do about this? Did you go to the doctors and say, what should we do about this?
We let it go, and we did get some therapy, which he agreed to. It's like £50 an hour every 2 weeks.
Yeah, but weren't you worried they might try and transition him?
No, because this is the actual opposite what happens. He didn't turn up one day. We still had to pay the fee. And basically what it was, they won't tell you anything because it's private. But we asked him, he, she, whatever. I'll get to that in a second if I've got time.
Just him, he's a boy.
Yeah, he's a boy, yes, definitely. And he said, she told me that is it gender dysphoria? Is that what you...
Yeah, that's what they call it, yeah. They diagnose that all the time, but it's not necessarily that, but that's what they call it.
Wordplay, yeah.
She said, is that the thing where you actually are that way, or you think you are? Because he didn't agree with it and decided not to go anymore. Whatever her assumption was...
what we assume the therapist said was, hey, listen... Don't worry about it. You have a mental illness that makes you believe that you're a woman. We can treat that mental illness. And he said, I'm not willing to be treated. Is that...
it was not so much the treated thing. What she told him was, no, I don't think you've got this. It's something else, something mental, yes.
Right.
Do you call him she? Do you refer to...
No, this is part of the story, because basically what happened was... Anyway, he wouldn't go there anymore because, no, I don't agree with what she says. She was great, by the way. I think she told him the truth and he didn't like it.
Well, that's good. That is good.
Yes, that's it, exactly. She was doing her job properly, but he didn't like it. I'm not going anymore. Anyway, this, that and the other. And over a period of time, across the dinner table, and he had problems before, like Tourette's and ADHD, all those sorts of things, you know.
That's often like 70, 80% of it is
so common.
All these things that have come to light now, he had all of them, basically.
Autism,
you know
what about autism?
All those sort of things.
And is it a couple of years down the line now and it's sort of changed, his hormones sort of he's settled down? Or?
No, this is it. I mean, how long have you got? I mean, I'm not going to be here forever, but we're talking forever, sorry. But basically what it was, he would say, across the dinner table, he'd say, because you say he naturally, because you're just used to it.
Yeah.
And he goes, use the effing pronoun, the right pronoun, you know, the effing
But you don't have
pronoun.
to. It's up to you what you believe, isn't it, Tim?
But this is what I'm saying, overreaction, swearing at us.
Well, he's a teenager, isn't he? Or,
but it's the other things going on here.
Yeah, and basically, we came back from a funeral one day, a good friend of ours, lady, she's a lovely lady, died quite young actually, of cancer, and he was cuddling his mum, which is unusual for him. He wasn't really that sort of person, and he said something, and I lost it. I was just going, "You're a boy, you're effing boy." Sorry, I swore at him, but and he slapped me around the face, and I thought, he's only a little.
And now we can't keep talking about this one case forever, but where are we up to now? I know you said that you're no longer with his mother, so we know, is he did he see the error of his ways, or what happened?
No, he dresses like a woman with short skirts on. He's a very tall, slim person, long red hair, this, that and the other.
Does he take the tablets still that he gets online?
I don't know. He doesn't really contact his mother. I'll get on well with her still, even though we're divorced. But he only comes around once a year, maybe, asking for therapy.
Tim, thank you so much. I want to ask Billboard Chris this question. Thanks so much, Tim in Portsmouth. So we've heard about the family breakup. We've heard about people who are more likely to commit suicide if they've transitioned and whatever. So how much of this is the chemicals that they're putting into it? Because Asher found some research he was talking about the other day that he reckons these puberty blockers can really weaken your heart as well, so they can make you infertile, depressed, all this sort of thing. I mean, how dangerous are these chemicals?
Yeah, because there's never been any studies into this. We don't have all the concrete data that we should have, but the WPATH files were released early last year in 2024. And in there you have these doctors admitting a young woman, for example, had hepatocarcinoma, liver cancer, and this doctor is very certain that it was because of the testosterone she was taking.
Yes.
We're putting chemicals and drugs in these kids' bodies that don't belong there.
Yes.
Well, here's the thing with gender ideology, if I may have 1 sec. Yeah. Whether you believe in God or evolution, this makes no sense. If you believe in God, this ideology is essentially saying, well, God made mistakes with a whole bunch of people.
Yes.
If you believe in evolution, as all these activists would do, by the way, well, then you're essentially stating that somehow 1 billion years of the process of natural selection has failed, and we now need a pharmaceutical company to help our children be their true selves.
The other thing I thought was one of the crazy things was with Donald Trump, when Donald Trump said that he didn't want people transitioning in the military. Now look, I've got a mate who could not be in the Ukrainian army because he's diabetic. If you are reliant on drugs, medical drugs of any description, being in the military is crazy, because you could get parachuted in to Afghanistan and then go, oh, my drugs that I need, my hormone suppressants have run out.
Never mind the other mental health issues they have, and they do. I've spoken with 1,000 of them. They're not all perfectly healthy and happy and normal walking around. They have struggles and they need help, but instead of help, they're getting harmed.
And also running out the trenches in your high heels is no good at all. But I mean, the thing is, they look at it very simplistically. They go, testosterone, estrogen, this will make you the male.
Yeah, that's right.
But it also is part of the development of your bones, your heart. Like you're saying, get cancer with all you're much more likely. You can have. I've heard people who've had a woman who had I don't know, hairs were growing inside her, autoimmune stuff. So they think it's just about being a man or woman, but these drugs are vital for your
I've got to be honest with you. I've got a friend of mine who transitioned just because he wanted to be more like a woman. Oh no, he wants to become a woman. I know you would disagree that he is, but he has to take immunity suppressants. Now,
for the rest of his life.
Presumably, the rest of his life will not be very long with immunity suppressants, because when I get to the age, if I get to the age of 70, my immunity will not be the same as it was when I was 25. If I'm on immunity suppressants.
It's increasing heart disease, cancers, And for the men who get the sex reassignment surgery, they have to dilate that wound for the rest of their life.
Yeah, and they have no sexual function.
So without being crude,
no desire.
I mean, it gets a little bit complicated.
They're sterile.
But the president of WPATH admitted that the boys who started puberty blockers at Tanner stage 2, the beginning of puberty, none of them, he says, as adults have ever had an orgasm. No. They're destroying the future sexual function of little kids.
And they're sterilising
and
them
also,
well, yeah.
I mean, without being funny, it's inevitable. If you cut off your penis and testicles, it will heal up. Whatever you fashion from what is left, it will heal up. I know that sounds awful. Look, we're going to go to a break now, and then we're going to have Ken in London.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, this is the Late Show with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Billboard Chris. And we've just had a discussion during the break because obviously I mentioned some medical details. And what the producer said is, listen, you know, if you're easily shocked, we're going to have to warn you. But Billboard Chris is now going to explain what happens with children who are put on puberty blockers from the age of 10 and ultimately transition. We're talking about an operation that is being not operates on children, but that process is starting with 10-year-olds, right? And unfortunately, it is pretty shocking. But Chris, if you could just explain, because I think people do need to know.
Sure, and this surgery is done on kids in the States.
Right.
But, so puberty blockers stop the genitalia from growing.
Right.
So the penis doesn't grow, and when they come of age, 18 years old, and they want to get sex reassignment surgery, what they do is they castrate the young man, and they invert the penis. It's called a penile inversion surgery.
Right.
But because it didn't grow, there's not enough tissue to do the surgery to get the depth that they would like. So they will cut out some of this young man's colon or some of his peritoneum, the lining of your abdominal cavity, and they use that to line the interior of what they call the neovagina. People have died from this surgery, developing necrotizing fasciitis where they can't stop tissue death.
But a colon, a vagina fashioned from a colon, I mean, it would smell like a colon.
It does, in fact, smell like a colon.
Oh, my goodness me.
And of course...
And by the way, they have to dilate that wound for the rest of their life.
Which is put a spatula in, basically.
Yeah, not a spatula. There's a specific dilator that they make for this. But
But they won't ever get any sexual feeling in there. There won't be any nerves.
Not for the colon.
It's basically to serve someone else. They won't get anything from it, will they?
They will graft the glands on, but it doesn't always work.
Okay, well, Ken is in London. Ken, look, I mean, there's a number of things you can talk about, whether you want to talk about the concerns that you've got protesting in the street after Charlie Kirk, or gender reassignment, or whatever it is.
Yeah, because he wears a billboard as well, Ken, but he preaches the gospel on it. Hi, Ken.
Good man.
I met the big man at the meeting. You might remember me. I met you when you'd been hit over the head with the ice cream. I don't know if you remember.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that earlier. Do you remember, Ken?
Yeah, I wasn't concussed by the ice cream attack.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. Why don't we, before Ken talks...
Was there a flake in it?
Why don't we get the footage of Ken on the other screen from when he had to go at Mick Lynch, and then Billboard Chris can see him, even if we... Okay. And we'll listen to him in real life.
How many other men with billboards
Ken, go ahead.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I would like to talk about free speech. It's gone all over the media today. Yeah. I'd just like to briefly tell you about my experience as a Christian calling into the media, radios and TV talk shows. The BBC, many years ago, maybe 5-8 years ago, I used to phone the BBC up, but once I called up and mentioned the name of Jesus, I get banned from 3 BBC radio programs.
Yes.
LBC. I phoned up LBC, 3 shows. That was Nick Ferrari, James O'Brien, and Tom Swarbrick. I spoke about Jesus a couple of times, connecting it to world situations, and I get banned from LBC. Now, when it comes to talk radio, let me just mention these names: Mike Graham, Ian Collins, Peter Heskin, Julia Hart.
We allow you to talk about Jesus.
Oh, I remember him.
We allow you to talk about Jesus. But anyway, what do you want to talk about generally with Chris?
The only just mention this: the only 2 people who have ever allowed me free speech on this, media is James Whale and Andre and you, Ash.
Thank you very much.
Of all these groups,
praise the Lord.
The rest are lying when they say they allow free speech. Now, the big man who's there tonight, I respect him very highly. He's carrying these banners, and it was billboards on his back, and he was presenting his viewpoint. And God bless. I'd like to ask him, young man, are you a born-again Christian?
No, I'm not.
Do you believe in Jesus?
I've got some issues. I'm not going to get into it all now, but I do certainly appreciate Jesus, and I just don't know about all the metaphysical components, but I appreciate the message of Christianity, and I think the world would be a better place if we were back to Christianity again.
Chris, it's free speech. I would like to tell you this: Jesus Christ loved you that much, He died for your sins. Don't go to hell, young man. God loves you.
All right.
Does that convince you, Chris?
Well, I will say,
it's not working.
I will say one thing. Here's where you are kindred spirits, because the reason we put Ken on this show is simply because we believe that the prohibition of Christian voices in the British media is wrong. Similarly, you know, the prohibition of people who are pro-child. You know, that's been a major problem, because the reality is, Ken is saying that he can't go on the BBC. I suspect you're not a regular on 5 Live either.
No, not yet. I think we'll get there, though. We're gonna move everyone around on this issue.
Things are shifting, aren't they?
Even the leftists are going to come around. A lot of the moderate leftists support me. It's just the far left has taken over all the moderate. They've taken over not the moderate lefts, but they've taken over all the parties. The moderates don't have a voice anymore, because then they're decried as the bigots and the fascists, even though they're
well, that's right, Ken.
Leftists.
I mean, Ken, I will say this. You know, in a Christian country, to preach Christianity is what I would argue to be a moderate position. But you're not very welcome at many political parties either, are you?
Well, listen, Andre, you know what happened in Nick Ferrari show? Nick Ferrari asked me a question. He said, is homosexuality a sin? I said, yes. In the Bible, it is a clear sin. It says, red card, you're banned. That was. Do
you not get a yellow and a second yellow?
Never allowed back in his show. That's the type of all these.
But equally, here's the one thing I'm going to say in defence of Ken. Ken is not saying that he hates gay people. He's not saying that they're evil.
He says he loves them.
He's saying I have a religious view, and my religious view is that what you're doing is a mistake. Please stop making this mistake. Now, as far as I'm concerned, if any gay person listens to that and is offended, they're an idiot. Because he's not having a go at you. He's not throwing an ice cream over your head. He's just saying, I am here to give you my opinion, and my opinion is that you should go to heaven, and here is my understanding of how you do it. What is wrong with that, Ken?
Well, that's the good news. We're all sinners. We're all guilty.
Hooray, we're all sinners.
But listen, the good news is Jesus Christ died in our place for our sin. He loves us. He rose from the dead according to Scripture. He was seen. He ascended bodily back to heaven, and he's coming back soon. And everything we see happening right now throughout the whole world is according to Bible prophecy.
Okay, Ken.
Jesus is coming.
Ken, thank you so much. Look, I
feel good now.
Let me ask you this, Chris. Thank you so much, Ken in London. Are we right in saying that if we return to Christianity, this country is going to be a better place? Because I appreciate 100%. that you're not a regular attender or whatever. And
I do go to church.
Yeah.
I met my wife at church. I'm not going to get into all my issues.
No, don't worry about it.
I'm just not going to be a hypocrite and say I'm a Christian when I have some issues with belief. Right?
Sure.
But of course, the world would be a better place if we went back to Christian values, because Christian values are good.
Yeah, I mean, I feel very strongly about that as well. We believe that this should be a majority Christian country. Ash is Jewish, it doesn't make any difference.
Well, it is a majority Christian country.
Yeah, well, that's right. Okay, let's go to...
Norrie in Glasgow.
All right.
Hi, good evening. Oh, sorry, good evening. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Ash, Andre, and Chris. I've spoken to you a number of times, Ash, when... the good old boy James Whale was here.
Yeah, I remember, Norrie, yeah.
And I've been listening to your show the last couple of evenings. And RJ, you're doing a great job, man.
Thanks so much. Can never be James Whale, but...
Yeah, it's good. Good. It's very, very good.
So what do you want to talk about, Norrie?
My point is here. I'm just going to touch on it. See, this gender thing, trans... whatever it is. I don't know. I'm not that intelligent to understand the whole thing.
I think you understand it all. Here's the breakdown. There's no such thing as a transgender child. They're called girls and boys. There's no such thing as a transgender person. This whole thing is a lie that started in the 60s when the first person coined the word gender identity, a man named Robert Stoller.
Yeah.
But just because you don't conform to stereotypes doesn't make you an alternate type of person called trans. Transition is something people do. It's not something they are.
They try to use wordplay. They say, sex isn't gender. No, they're exactly the same thing. They try and use these word tricks.
I've got to be honest with you. My understanding of what the difference between sex and gender is it's a different word. That's it.
But the left says it's entirely different now.
Which is gibberish.
Your gender is based on a feeling.
It's newspeak. It's 1984.
Man or a woman. But what does a woman know about feeling about a man? Feeling like a man.
But as an example, I'm just going to throw this out there. If I like curry, it doesn't make me Indian. Right? And there was always that joke, wasn't there? If I sleep in a stable, it doesn't make me a horse.
You can't say you're a black man, and they would all find great offense to that. But you're closer to being a black man than you are to being a woman.
Well, of course, Can I just interact here a wee second?
So go.
Of course you can, Norrie.
See these guys is a chemical...
Castration. Yeah.
That does not make him a woman.
No.
Exactly.
But he doesn't have the balls to admit he's still a man. Pardon my pun.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Be funny there. Now the other thing is, my fear. I'm going off off track a wee bit here. These migrants are moving into Britain constantly. I guarantee you, in about 3 months' time, all these young men in their 30s will turn around and say, "No, I want to be identified as a woman." What do we do then?
Yeah.
That is a very philosophical... When all these migrants in 3 months' time decide to become a woman, what will we do then?
Maybe if they get thrown in jail, they'll decide that.
Let me say to you that there is a video on my YouTube channel about the fact that all of the migrants who have the indefinite leave to remain, there's 1.7 million in the pipeline, will be able to bring their family to the United Kingdom if you want to watch that
Extended
video. About the fact that could mean an extra 8 to 10 million British people brought in the next 5 years.
And the rest.
You go to my YouTube channel channel. Look, Chris, I mean, this is the difficulty, isn't it? Because it is difficult bringing up a child, and when they've got all this poison being pumped into them at school, I mean, we've got situations where children are able to go to school, they are being called Janet at school, and the parents are not being told. Right. And I know it happened in Canada first, but there is now some talk that if you do not support your child's trans identity, quote unquote, then that is child abuse. And so you will now be told, either allow us to put your children onto this treatment or your child will be taken into care.
Yes, several countries have passed legislation calling it conversion therapy to help your girl feel comfortable as a girl or your boy as a boy. It's okay to convince your girl she's a boy and to then sterilize her and maim her. It's not okay to tell her, no, sweetheart, you're not a boy, you're a girl. That's called conversion therapy. In Canada, you can go to jail for up to 5 years.
Wow. Wow.
Right.
What about this? I want to read this to you from Anonymous. My adult son came out, I mean, we know who this person is, so but she didn't want to name. My adult son came out as a trans woman last year and was able to verbalise what she had been feeling all those years but kept hidden, and why she'd finally come out to the point where she could no longer pretend anymore. She is the sweetest, most gentlest person I know. She has gender dysphoria. Nobody would choose to face the discrimination she faces every day, so it's definitely not a fad. It was a shock to me at first, but she's been so brave in opening up, and she's happy that she now has a mum she can want. She just wants to be accepted and live her life quietly. This is her truth, and she's entitled to have that respected by others, even if they don't agree with her, because they have a different truth. What is the answer to somebody who just has this, and we have people watch and listen who do this, who has all this treatment, is happy with the treatment they've had, go to work every day, pay their taxes, do not want to be in women's sports, do not go and cause any trouble with anybody. Basically, what this person, Anonymous, is saying is that should we not just leave this person alone to get on with what they're doing?
So, first of all, I don't believe all of that for a second. There's no way this person is just going through life completely happy.
Okay.
This mother is part of the problem.
Okay.
I can tell you that she's part of the problem because the way she's addressing her son.
Right.
She's calling him she.
And talking about different truths. There's only one truth, isn't there?
The mother is an enabler of this. And this individual, her son, has other problems.
But it's her son and she loves him, and she might lose him, her, if she doesn't, you know. And so parents are thinking, I don't want to lose my kid, I want to look after them. What about that?
It's not that simple. Right. So as I mentioned earlier, over 50% of these mothers had borderline personality disorder themselves. Every single person that's transitioning has other mental health issues.
But what,
and a lot of these parents, Chris, especially the mothers, it's always the mothers.
But what should she do, like?
I don't know their family. I don't know their life. We're talking about years and years in history that have gone into this decision.
Yeah.
So clearly, along the way, some of the teachings went wrong, because this young man, maybe he's more effeminate. Sure.
Yeah.
So he's an effeminate man.
Could be gay.
He's not a woman.
Yeah.
And he's not a trans woman. We should never use the word woman in a terminology that defines a man.
But there is still the other point to make on the face of it, and I appreciate that somebody can shine up what they're saying for this, and also we're not having to go at anyone because this is an anonymous message.
Sure.
Therefore, but what if it were true that this person just goes to work every day as a woman? As an example, nobody knows they're a woman at work, and they just pay their taxes, get on with stuff, and just, you know what I mean?
This is quite the hypothetical.
No, I get that.
Men almost never pass as a woman, first of all. And it is not healthy to have a society where you're pretending men are women and women are men.
Why not?
You're lying to yourself.
You're lying. You're affirming a delusion, and you're adding to this social contagion, because as soon as you say that's fine for him, guess what? Other people start doing it too.
I get that.
But another thing that hasn't been touched on here is I guarantee he's making other women in his workplace uncomfortable.
Okay.
Because they don't want to be perceived as men in women's clothing. They want to be perceived as women, and they want to use women's facilities, and it's not okay. We have men who now identify as women going into rape shelters. And we have rape shelters in Canada getting defunded because they won't allow men to come in. They don't care about the women in there. They don't care about the women whose PTSD is getting triggered because they've been raped by men, and now they have some autogynephilic man coming into their facility.
With woman face. You wouldn't allow people to put black face on.
I'll tell you one thing that I find really despicable. So, whatever you think about this debate, the self-definition of a man or a woman is wrong, because it is a fact. In the UK, the largest category of people who have self-identified as trans in order to go into women's prisons are convicted sex offenders. Now, that is not to say, absolutely not to say, that somebody who is trans is automatically a sex offender. That would be ridiculous to say that. However, this whole can we all just agree on one thing? That when you're in prison, being able to self-define as a woman and go into a woman's prison as a male rapist is madness. Can we not all just agree on that?
They're still doing it, aren't they?
The SNP in Scotland did not agree that.
I think they're still doing it, even with the Supreme Court ruling. I don't know.
I haven't looked into that enough, but I did hear this week from a woman for 4 Women Scotland, which is a great group advocating for women, that they are essentially ignoring that Supreme Court ruling.
Yes, they are.
In various arenas.
A lot of institutions.
We had various organisations, some major institutions, some big banks tweeting, "We stand with women." So basically, the law is that you are required to protect women. You are going to ignore that law, because remember what the Green Party are talking about. They're saying we should have a mandatory 50% of women in senior jobs in business. You can argue whether that's good or bad, but the definition of a woman is that I can go, I'm a woman and I count. More with Billboard Chris after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Okay, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Billboard Chris. And Billboard Chris, I wanted to ask you, just to give you a little bit of background, regular viewers will know this, but you won't know this. Viscount Monckton, the former advisor to Margaret Thatcher and hereditary peer, said that he believed that the whole trans thing, and indeed the woke thing, was related to a foreign intelligence service infiltrating the United Kingdom and attempting to cause problems. And what he said was, I don't really know what's happened, but whenever there is a new social movement, it's normally an intelligence service that's behind it. Now, whilst Lord Monckton was never an intelligence officer, he did work in Downing Street in an intelligence-related function. Here is the thing. We assumed that was China or Russia. We've now discovered that the trans movement was principally funded by the United States of America through US aid. Now that Elon Musk and Donald Trump have put an end to that, a lot of this funding's disappeared. Billboard Chris, were you shocked to discover that the people undermining our families, our democracy and our community was actually the United States of America?
No, because the Democrats were in power and they're all about this. This is the hill they want to die on. In the last presidential election, the #1 swing issue that caused people who could have gone for Kamala or Trump, the #1 swing issue was transgender insanity, not the border or immigration or the economy. But the Democrats are determined to die on this issue. They've been sending billions and billions of dollars overseas, exporting this ideology to every country in the world. But it's not just them. It's countries like Canada who send upwards of $20 billion overseas to push this, including to the Ukraine for some reason, where they were engaging in gender equitable demining, as in minefields where you're going to get blown up. They somehow spent money on doing that in a gender equitable fashion. They just waste money. But then you also have these governments through USAID, of course, but also putting money into NGOs. But
let me just say this, because you gave a throwaway comment there, wasting money. I mean, they haven't wasted. It's been a hugely successful campaign. Wasted by your perception as a Canadian taxpayer, but it's been hugely successful. Thousands, and I mean, the number of children that were trans 20 years ago compared to now, I mean, this number has grown exponentially.
A recent report in the U.S. showed that kids between 13 and 17 years of age, I think it was 724,000, said they were trans or non-binary.
Wow.
I mean, the Democrats, that's sort of all they did in the green issues, and one of the best adverts, and important adverts for the Trump campaign was when it said, for you, not for they, them. Anyway. Yeah. Sally in Crystal Palace, South London. Hi, Sally. What do you want to say to Billboard Chris?
Hello.
Sally.
Hello.
Hi, guys. Lovely to see the clips of James's funeral. Ash, you did him really proud.
Thanks, Sally.
Oh, that's fine. I was just wondering, does Chris think these children who are not fully developed physically or mentally when they're treated, might there be a possibility of the kids making a claim against their parents or the clinics?
It has already happened, hasn't it, with some of the clinics being
There haven't been claims against parents that I'm aware of. No. There are in the States about 20 civil lawsuits going on right now against the doctors, and that's where we really need to hit them. The insurance companies will pay out these payouts, and then they'll just stop covering this procedure, and then that'll put it.
Will there be a group action? You know,
I don't. Well, I know that there was talk of a group action in the UK. Generally speaking, it does depend on the country. So let's talk about the UK. It's all under one jurisdiction. You have a better chance of a class action here. But each case is always a little bit different, right?
Yeah,
so
pretty unique.
We're talking about medical malpractice, and that's difficult to do with the class action.
Yeah. That caller gave you the question and then left to hear the answer.
Sally.
Okay. Okay, so somebody has said, your guest is making me absolutely furious. I'm shaking. This was the person who was anonymous before. You don't have an effing clue. He's so judgmental. To this person, look, Billboard Chris has been around for a long time.
This is the person who said it about her son.
He's pretty robust. He's happy to have a debate with you. You can come in, because you do want to remain anonymous, you can come in with a fake name. There's no issue whatsoever.
He says, how dare you say I'm part of the problem? He knows nothing about me or my family, Andre. I love my daughter and I will support her in the best way I can.
Well, you're part of the problem because you're calling him your daughter, and he's not. He's your son.
But you've got to understand, this is, well, now she says daughter, it's a son, as you would say, and, you know, it's a parent, and the kid is saying, I am a woman. What is it meant to do if you think the kid's going to just leave home and you'll not be able to protect them anymore? You can understand.
No, I don't understand. You call your son and your daughter, and that's it.
No, hang on,
You don't
Chris.
call your son a hippopotamus?
But what if they say, I'm going to kill myself or I'm going to leave?
Yeah, okay, so what you've just done there, Ash, is you've given the #1 argument that trans activists give every time.
True.
Yeah.
This threat of suicide. And I can already tell you, again, she's part of the problem based on her reaction. It wasn't a rational, logical reaction. It's anger. If I was on the street, she would just be yelling and screaming, not like a logical and rational person. So she doesn't have to like the answer. That's fine. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that calling her son a girl is okay, because it's not. She is lying to him, and she is enabling a mental illness.
What happens with, and this is one thing that does worry me about this person, that they are trying to do their best in a difficult situation. But would you concede that society is against these people, in the sense that, you know, the government, USAID, the NHS, the Tavistock Clinic, Stonewall, the progressive left, the BBC, the trade union, whatever category you're talking about,
they're against them.
If this anonymous person was to say what you asked her to say to her son, everyone would be against them apart from you.
No,
and that does make life difficult.
I have support from 90% of the population.
No, but the point I'm making is that the
leftist institutions are
correct.
all...
That's what I mean.
Are all on the side of pushing a delusion. This isn't the first delusion that's existed in the history of the human race. There have been many. There have been many psychiatric disorders that are completely made up, like multiple personality disorder, which the psychiatric profession now largely says was completely made up. They used to do lobotomies on people, putting ice picks through their orbital sockets, stabbing away at the prefrontal cortex of their brain. Based on what evidence? None.
Which
what
based on the miner who had the pole through his frontal cortex.
I mean, I will say one other thing that troubles me about the whole trans debate. There's you will know this better than me. You've got the medical language and whatever, but there's this effect where people who are fundamentally unhappy because of mental illness, which, by the way, you know, we support the treatment of people who've got mental illnesses, but people who are fundamentally unhappy will jump onto the latest fad reason, if you like. You will know the name of this. There are no longer any emos. There are no longer many self-harmers. People have now become trans instead. And what
lesbians are disappearing.
Is that right?
They're all converting to
where have they
trans
gone?
Men.
Oh, yeah.
They're getting their breasts cut off.
I mean,
so the rational lesbians who understand how harmful this movement is are devastated because their community is under attack just about as much as any of them.
Okay, well, look...
She says, I'm not a trans activist, I'm a loving mum, is what she says.
The big issue is we've got to be fair to Billboard Chris as well, because Billboard Chris contends that the central proposition that somebody walks in who's completely rational with no mental health problems and no other issues and goes, I want to become a trans woman, and then converts and immediately every problem is solved. He contends that simply isn't true, and he does have some evidence to back that up. So it's just very difficult unless we have the full details of the case. Let's go to Heather in Gavan. Heather,
have we got a little breaky before the end? No, we haven't. Okay.
Heather.
Right, Chris, about Charlie Kirk, who died
was murdered,
by putting his logic and his common sense and teaching the young in the and I've been watching on YouTube how he's going about teaching the young generation how to formulate debates and have freedom of speech and have that logic and common sense. It's vitally important that we need to know that these young people are going to be the future of our country or future of American country. To have that logic and common sense.
Oh, well, let me tell you, Heather, this is one of my favourite comments, and I'll put it to Chris. This is, if there was one political issue, Heather has summarised my biggest one. The fact that I see a great risk in the fact that we're not debating anymore. We're just saying, you are a fascist, you are a Nazi, you can't speak, no platform him, no platform her. I will tell you something, Chris. I happen to think you're right, but even if I thought you were wrong, I would broadcast you because I think it's vital to have this discussion.
Sure, and we're having a peaceful discussion, and if we disagree, that's great. And if I'm wrong about something, I would love to hear it. I'd love to hear the compelling evidence. I love being wrong. That's how we learn. But one of the problems with the kids today, and it's not essentially a problem from the kids, it's from the people who are educating them and the environment they're being brought up in, is they're encouraged to treat people with a different opinion with disdain.
Not even engage in debate.
I'm out on the street in Glasgow and I'm getting yelled at and abused by all these young people.
But that's because
I wouldn't have done that when I was younger, and none of my peers would have either.
Don't you think that's a way of... Because they can't have a rational debate because they'd lose if they spoke rationally, so the only way...
They're modelling the behaviour they see from adults.
Yeah.
Who treat people like that. You see all these university professors and people in media calling Charlie Kirk a fascist.
Yeah.
So the kids who are being lied to and indoctrinated and being led by example of these terribly behaving adults, they do the same.
But if you can't stand up an argument, let me just tell you what happens to me all the time. I've always said that on my Twitter, it says, opinions here are not even my own, right? The reason is because I'll give you one example. I originally thought that if you had corrective surgery, i.e. outwardly you had a vagina and breasts, you should be allowed into a women's changing room. People like you have persuaded me I'm wrong. Right? Now, ultimately, I wasn't able to sustain the argument in the face of women phoning me up. So I thought to myself, I went home and I thought, yeah, what a good point. But that's what you have to do. Sure. If I just sat there in a huff every time I was wrong, A, I'd never do this job, but B, I'd never learn anything either. Heather, back to you.
Well, when I'm looking at Charlie Kirk right now on YouTube, the way he goes about it, explaining to the young how... it's okay to be wrong and it's okay to be right, but in a peaceful way, but not in a violent way.
But Heather, do you know what I'd have done? Heather, I'll tell you what I'd have done with Chris and his ice cream on the head. I've said this many times. I would arrest that person for terrorism. I believe that there is a part of terrorism which I call the veto of one, which is you are not allowed to speak because I do not like what you're going to say. And I think the reason they hit Billboard Chris with an ice cream or a milkshake with Nigel Farage is because they don't have a gun. Right, and therefore I believe it is a brand of terrorism. We need Heather to stop the veto of one.
It's wrong to be violent with people by being violent with people because of their political views or any views whatsoever. What Nigel Farage is saying, what Charlie Kirk is saying, they have the right to speak their mind freely without having a gunshot in the throat or an ice cream in the face.
Yeah, well...
Thanks, Heather. Yeah, Terry says Chris is spot on. That's from Terry the plumber. I mean, you got an ice cream. Must have been easy to clean up, though. Imagine if I'd got it, it'd be all matted in my hair. Yeah. Was it very cold, though?
Yeah, you haven't washed your hair since 1982.
No, well, it's got ice cream in it. Anyway, let's go to Dave in Worcester. Dave?
You're right, mate.
You're right, man. What's up, Dave?
No, I've been listening to the conversation. I know it's Billy Petra and that.
Earwigging, were we?
No, I was over the prison thing. But you know when you get that wound up, if you've got boobs and a willy.
Yeah.
Boobs and a willy.
You're a man.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what.
Well, no, there are.
I've got a mate he drinks a lot of beer and apparently that creates issues and he develops breasticles.
No, but the vast majority of people who have any form of surgery have breasts, but they do not have corrective downstairs. Well, what made me laugh is when you said, "Should we go to a break?" They told you not to.
They said not to. Yeah, now go to a break. Yeah.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Okay, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Ashley Gould, and we did say that we needed a break, and the gallery said we didn't, and then they told us urgently. Okay, we're sticking with Dave and Worcester.
You hadn't finished, had you, Dave? Dave?
Oh, still in, mate, you're right.
You're all right, Dave. So anyway, continue as if nothing happened.
Well, nothing happened in my life, mate.
Not in the last couple of minutes, no. Which is
well,
nice.
I don't understand it. If they change the laws, if you want corrective surgery, pay for your own.
Yeah.
Well, even then, I mean, you shouldn't.
I agree with that.
Not if you're a child.
I'll tell you what. So I agree with boob jobs and facelifts on the NHS, and I'll tell you why, or plastic surgery rather. If you've had some sort of facial disfigurement from a fire or whatever, you should have that. If you've had a mastectomy, you should. Hang on a second. If you've had a mastectomy, you should be offered that.
Yeah.
That people say that gender reassignment... Hang on a second. People say that gender reassignment is in the same category as those two things. It is simply not in the same category. David, continue.
Dave.
It's not. If you've had a breast took off, it's like me losing one of my balls. Sorry, one of my testicles.
That's better.
I need one back.
Yes.
Right? That's fair enough. But if you've not got any to begin with, why should I pay for it?
Yeah, I agree with that. Thank you so much, Dave. I've got to say to you...
You can make your own.
I've got to say to you, I do agree with that. If you've had testicular cancer and you've lost a testicle, having a prosthetic testicle, I think, is a perfectly appropriate thing to have on the NHS. I do not believe it's your duty to go out and raise the money yourself or go abroad or anything like that. But what we're talking about here is very, very different. We were talking in the break about the fact that I had a friend of mine whose fetish it was to have sex like a woman, therefore did all this reassignment. But that's not the vast majority of these people, is it?
No, I mean, that's these guys with this paraphilia, this sexual perversion. And there's usually other things going along with that too. And so if an adult wants to do that to himself and he finds a doctor who wants to do it, I would never do it as a doctor. But whatever, we just shouldn't be calling him a woman. And he should never be going into any women's spaces.
Yeah. And now listen, we've only got 1 minute left with you, and we're going to see. I'm going to get some footage tomorrow. I'll be out and about with my camera at this Unite the Nation protest. Could I get your number before you go? What is your prediction for the next 20 years? Are we going to win this? Are we going to help children? Or is there going to be more of the same?
Yes, we're going to totally stop pediatric medical transition, changing the sex-based characteristics of children. We're going to stop that everywhere. But this ideology itself is going to take at least a generation to undo. It's been forming its roots for decades in academia, and academia is a big problem. We can't get rid of these professors. They have tenure, you can't get rid of them, they're still pushing it. So we need to make this ideology so uncool that no kid will ever dream of transitioning because they think it's the most ridiculous thing in the world.
And of course, in the meantime, you have the